welcome to Just a Minute. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country but throughout the world, but also to welcome to the programme this week 4 exciting, talented, literate individuals who are all, with different humorous ways, going to show their capability with words, their verbal dexterity, as they try and speak on a subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And those 4 talented performers are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Sue Perkins, and seated on my left, Gyles Brandreth and Liza Tarbuck. Will you please welcome all 4 of them? Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me with the score and blow a whistle when the 60 seconds are up. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Radio Theatre in the heart of Broadcasting House, that edifice in the West One area of London. We have a lovely cosmopolitan, metropolitan audience in the audience, ready to cheer us on our way as we begin the show. Gyles, we'd like you to start the show off. And the subject is, oh, a lovely one, my favourite Shakespeare play.
If music be the food of love, play on, give me excess of it, that surfeiting the appetite may sicken and so die. That strain again, it had a dying fall. This is the first line from Shakespeare's Twelfth Night, written in the early 1600s, and certainly my favourite play. I've essayed the role of Malvolio and that of Feste. We could cast the drama here, tonight, with you, perhaps, Nicholas, in the role, perhaps, of...
Sue Chalmers.
Role.
Yeah.
A double role.
Yeah.
To role, yes. What were you going to cast me as?
Well, Orsino, I think. Because Count Orsino, he is the romantic lead.
Oh, well, that's very natural of you.
And Sue was going to be Violet. It'd be quite fun. And Toby Belch could be Paul. And I thought we could do... And you could be Darling, Liza. You could be a lovely Mariah. And also Olivia.
Right.
You could have the double role.
We're on.
That's the
right.
idea.
And you're going to present this for us. Right, that's great. But Sue Perkins' challenge then, because it was repetition of role, and so she has a point for that, and she has 36 seconds available to tell us something about my favourite Shakespeare play, starting now.
I'm a fan of Macbeth, the much-maligned lady of that name. She comes a cropper due to a spot of blood on some washing, and she can't get it out. Come hell or high water, she's there all night long, scrubbing away, because, of course, there's no detergent. He's off killing people. He's seen a ghost and gone absolutely stark-staring mental. You would, wouldn't you? Fleance has flown. That's what fleances do.
Liza challenge.
You would, wouldn't you?
You wouldn't. Too many yous. Yeah. Let one go, but 3 or 4,
yeah,
no.
She's right.
Lisa,
2
you
yous,
have...
you Perkins.
There are 14 seconds for you, Lisa, on my favourite Shakespeare play, starting now.
Romeo and Juliet is possibly my favourite Shakespeare play. I was excited by the film directed by Franco Zeffirelli, in which he made this blank verse that I've been learning at school come off the page and onto the screen and set the whole thing actually...
So Liza Tarbuck was talking then as the whistle went, and in this game, whoever is speaking at that moment gains an extra point, and it was Liza, so she's now at the end of the first round in the lead, away ahead of all the others. Sue Perkins, would you start the second round?
Yes.
Soho, another London subject. Tell us something about it in this game, starting now.
Well, it's all flashing lights and young people, and I was part of that set way back when. Imagine the 80s if you can. Some knickerbockers, a tank top, braces of the dental kind, and me traversing bohemian London, looking like a right state. I often would wear a parka with a target on my back so people could aim their missiles more effectively at my spine, which they tended to, being, as I was, a spod. I loved the classics, to read great works of literature. I was no clothes horse. I weighed approximately 7 stone and was skittish at best, like a newborn foal, but without the capabilities of racing at
Giles'
distance.
challenge.
There is a certain erotic charge to this description of Sue in the 1980s, but Soho really has not featured at all. We have just had a picture of a girl in the 1980s.
In Soho.
She could have been anywhere.
But I was in Soho, the bright lights. Do you not remember way back when? About 40 seconds ago.
You were giving a brilliant description of you at that particular time, but you didn't relate it very closely to Soho, and you didn't talk about the area and so forth.
Did I not say I was the Duchess of Soho?
Definitely not, no. So, Gyles, correct challenge, of course, a point to you. 25 seconds, Soho, starting now.
I first got involved in Soho when I was a member of Lord Longford's pornography committee. I still have the raincoat that I bought at the time, though my wife has now sewn up the pockets. We paraded around Soho, the noble Earl and myself, dipping into dives to see topless people dancing with goats.
Paul challenge.
Topless people?
Yes.
Are they topless men? I mean, that's not pornography.
Can I
topless
say,
men?
I am gender neutral. I don't patronise a lap dancer just because she's a woman.
Gyles, I actually am going to give you the benefit of the doubt again, because you can say topless people, and it could refer to girls or men. It doesn't really matter.
They were both.
Well, it doesn't matter whether there were only one. It is still correct.
But you were
what
with us.
said.
You remember we went to that gay bar just off Dean Street.
He plays a fast and loose game, Gyles. Also, can you dip into a dive?
Yeah. Can I tell you?
Really?
Yeah, it's like
Doesn't
a
it have to be
sherbet dip.
liquid?
It's fun. You just put it in. Come out. Oh, yeah.
Right, so, Gyles, you have the benefit of the doubt, and you have Soho still, and 8 seconds starting now.
Go up Greek Street towards Soho Square and you find the most wonderful Roman Catholic church where the vicar is a sweet man who forgives the fallen.
So, Gyles, again, speaking as a whistle wind, gained that extra point. You're now 1 ahead of Liza, Tarbuck, and you're 3 ahead of Paul Merton. Liza, will you begin the next subject? I don't know how you're going to go with this one. Endorphins. Do you know anything about them?
I certainly do.
Oh, good. Will you talk about them? 60 seconds, starting now.
Endorphins are chemicals that rush up the spine and into the brain, although it's the spinal cord ones that we know about most. Found accidentally whilst scientists in the 1970s were searching for drug information. They discovered that these liquids in our head and help me.
Paul, you challenge.
There was a sort of coming to a stop.
I did, yeah.
There was a
Sort of
coming to a little
I was
stop.
being stared at.
Were you?
Yeah.
It was in a loving
We
way.
were absolutely
I know, do you know
entranced
what?
with
It was
We-
absolutely right.
We
What
were
can I say?
enraptured by what you were saying, actually.
I
Didn't
meant every word of
understand
it.
I know. Paul, you've got a correct challenge. You have 39 seconds. Tell us something about endorphins, starting now.
Well, they're beautiful creatures. Flipper was my favourite. You got to bounce a beach ball on his load, swim around the sea of bottlenose variety, and people would say, "Where's he heading for?" And then they would surge across the oceans, and he would lead them.
Giles' challenge.
This is very droll, but it's a slight on your diction. It's an insult to you. You're famous for your diction. You're only here, I know, because you knew Lord Reith personally.
You took some elocution lessons, didn't you?
When he appointed you and Alvar Liddell, at the end of the late hostilities, he said, "Nicholas, I like you because you seem to have your own teeth." And you did say endorphins very, very clearly. And he is talking about any old dolphins. Flipper and the like.
Yes, but when they enjoy themselves, they've got endorphins in their brain.
No.
So?
No.
When dolphins are released up your spine into your brain, I tell you what, that's a buzz.
That's higher than you can get.
The endorphin is actually, not wishing to be pedantic, but endorphins
but
are
you will
released
be.
Giles, you're going to have the subject in a moment. I'd save it if I were you.
I'll keep
Right.
quiet.
I mean, I must inform my listeners, I didn't actually personally know Lord Reith. I didn't. And I didn't get the job because of him. I have been here quite
And
a
they're
long
not
time.
your own teeth.
He's road testing Anne Widdecombe's tonight.
There's a Labrador outside, looks a bit gummy.
I think Lisa deserves a bonus point for that insult she did against me. Right. And endorphins, because, yes, you did, I think I said it quite clearly, Paul, endorphins and not dolphins.
Yeah, how dare you?
So, Giles, you have the subject. You have 29 seconds. Endorphins starting now.
Endogenous morphine, naturally produced from the pituitary gland, is what we now call endorphins, discovered in 1975 by 2 remarkable men in the United States of America and a Japanese who is still claiming rights in this particular issue. When you actually produce this in yourself, the effect is startling. All over the body, not just up the spine, but I can tell you around the knee.
You challenged Sue.
Yes, it was repetition of produce, but also I got to the stage where I was panicking when he was talking about producing the endorphins himself. I thought, where are we going? I must stop this.
Yeah.
Your repetition of produce,
Produced.
that was your first challenge.
Yeah.
Yes, you did have 2 produced, but we let you go because we couldn't believe it. 8 seconds, Sue, for you to tell us something about endorphins starting now.
A tidal wave of chemicals surge through your brain, the like of which has not been seen since Gyles Brandreth personally saw to it himself.
So Gyles Brandreth is still in the lead. Sue Perkins got 1 for speaking as a whistle wench, come up in 2nd place alongside Liza Tarbuck, and Paul, for once, is trailing in 4th place. But Paul, will you begin the next round? The subject now is the American dream. 60 seconds, as usual, starting now.
Well, the American dream is looking pretty good at the moment, I suppose. As the new year begins, 2009, there's a newish American president. Well, in fact, he's brand new, but I said that before, so I don't want to repeat.
Charles, challenge.
Repetition of new.
Yes, you have the new. We're going to get out of it by saying newish, and he... I know it's sad, but that's the rules of the game. 50 seconds available, Gyles, on the American dream starting now.
All of us apparently dream in American because we watch so much television, and the accent is the one that we hear constantly. And consequently, the American dream is all our sleep time for out...
Sue, challenge.
Hesitation.
Yep.
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 So, Sue, you have another point. You have 39 seconds. The American dream starting now.
I have a dream, the most important phrase ever uttered by a campaigner in American history. And finally, we see the realization, the bow drawn across the arc of history and fired into the future by a man upon our very hopes rest. He's the most important...
Paul, challenge.
Can a bow be drawn across the arc of history?
He said it could, and I believed him.
If you want to be poetic, and she was going into poetic language,
Yes.
I thought, and so she created an image in my mind which
All
I
right.
accepted. All right.
Okay, yes.
And so we.
Well, that's divided them. Didn't call me for poetry.
Once he's created an image in his mind, there's no point in fighting that. Once he gets the image, he can't shift it.
I try to be fair with the rules just a minute, and I give the benefit of the doubt to Sue, and you know that I will always redress that balance if I get an opportunity later, Paul. So, Sue, you continue after you've gained another point. 25 seconds, the American dream starting now.
The Great Gatsby is a book written about the American dream, where the eponymous hero Jay sets off on a mission to exhaust his own limitless potential. He's aided by his love object. It's a long time since I read it. In fact, I did it for O-level, so whilst I made a big play of it at the beginning, I can scarce remember the plot now and it's trailing away. The 20s were a roaring success, and much of it was to do with the accumulation of wealth by a small select...
So Sue Perkins has gone ahead. She's in the lead now, having gained that extra point for speaking as a whistle wench. She's 1 ahead of Gyles Brandreth. She's 3 ahead of Liza Tarbuck and 1 or 2 more Paul Merton. And Gyles, we'd like you to start the next round. I'm a bit nervous of the subject. I don't know why they put it in. It says, if Nicholas was a superhero. I don't know what you'll do with it, but you have the opportunity. 60 seconds starting now.
If Nicholas was a superhero is a misnomer. He is a superhero. The personification of glory in our eyes. Look at the physique, the silver hair, the proud brow, that powerful nose, teeth that fit, the hearing aids so discreetly hidden, then a chin, in fact several, they're so beautiful. Shoulders that are powerful, underpants, you can actually see them rising above his trousers. The natural garb of the true superhero.
Sorry, I panicked. I just panicked. I thought, this has got to stop here.
I know, it has got to stop.
But it can't.
It's deviation.
Of course, because I haven't got those underpants on.
No.
You've got the lime green banana hammock on.
No,
That's
he's gone
right, yes.
commando.
Yeah, no,
And
absolutely.
and you can have him for the teeth. I've got my own teeth. I haven't got a hearing aid in. You can have him on any number of deviations.
Indeed.
There. But it was very great. It was tremendous fun.
I was just getting down to your body.
That's why I panicked.
Yeah. It was a very
I
timely
don't think you should bring
I
so
think
much
so.
of your personal life into this, Gyles. Right. Paul, you have 34 seconds. Tell us something about the subject, if Nicholas was a superhero, starting now.
If Nicholas was a superhero, I see him as Captain Suave with a bulletproof cravat, walking into situations, desperately fighting people and then saying to them, oh, really, you must come to tea. And then just being so elegant as he fights off the supervillains of the world. Octopus Man coming towards him with 8 arms, and Nicholas would gently say, I really just don't think those cufflinks go with those sleeves, and would immediately point out that this huge person was actually not fit to save the planet. But here, Nicholas can grab us all in his arms and say, I am Captain Suave, and I believe in truth, justice, and the BBC.
So Paul Merton was then speaking as a whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so. Worked bloody hard to get it, didn't he? Sue, it's your turn to begin. And the subject we've got now is cracking the whip. Tell us something about that subject. Oh, I did. It is getting a bit sort of naughty, this programme, isn't it? Cracking the whip. 60 seconds starting now.
Cracking the whip is used by 2 professions, lion tamers and dominatrix. Make sure you get them the right way round, otherwise you'll have lions in an office block and I can't remember how. Started well, but so much of what I do just petered out into a thin, meaningless...
So, Paul, you challenged
There was
first.
a bit of a hesitation.
There was a bit of hesitation. Cracking the whip is with you now. 49 seconds starting now.
If we look at the case of Max Mosley, there's a man who was strapped for cash. And I think that cracking the whip is one of those things in life where you suddenly realise I've got to improve my status. I've got to change things. Perhaps seek out new horizons. It's a Star Trek. Seek out new horizons.
You've been very dramatic in this show.
I am, yes. Shall I tone it down?
Absolutely carried on. Dolphins and
cravats.
Cravats and so forth.
And wild, wild women. And that song? Dolphins and cravats.
Yeah. Sue, you challenge first.
Hesitation.
Yeah.
Yes, right. 35 seconds. Cracking the whip. Back with you, Sue, starting now.
It's important to crack things on, to get things going apace when the tempo is sagging.
Paul challenge.
A repetition of things.
Yes, you had too many
Yes,
things
that'll do
there,
it.
right? 31 seconds now with you, Paul. Cracking the whip, starting now.
When I was in charge of a poodle act, it was very important to make each one of those dogs realise their initial responsibilities to the routine. For example, Barry, he was a keen cyclist, one of the finest little French dogs you could see, and he would get up on that bike, hold his head proud, wearing a cravat, funnily enough,
Charles, you challenge.
Repetition of cravat, but maybe that was some years ago.
He was talking about cravats
Yes,
before.
he was.
Paul, an incorrect challenge. Cracking the whip, still with you. 13 seconds, starting now.
It's all about discipline. If you look at the panellists on this show, each one of them has succeeded in their own chosen profession. Nicholas, he sits amongst us like a giant, but he cracks the whip. If somebody hesitates...
So Paul Merton, who's been training a little, was not only speaking then as a whistle win, gained that extra point, but others in the round. He's now equal in the lead with Sue Perkins. But they're only just ahead of Gyles Brandreth and only just further ahead of Liza Tarbuck. And Lisa, you're going to begin the next round because your name's here on the card in front of me. And the subject, I think you know something about this, vegetarianism. Right, tell us something about it in this game, starting now.
Abstaining from eating flesh for ethical or nutritional reasons is one way of explaining vegetarianism. I can't go into what the other one is. Safe to say, I was a vegetarian. Blast it!
That's Gyles.
Hesitation.
Was it
Yes.
you?
And it was so interesting, too.
You got a
Why didn't
card.
you
No, it was
challenge?
interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Gyles, you challenge. You've got 50 seconds. Tell us something about vegetarianism starting now.
The first time he met me, Barack Obama sensed that name-dropping was one of my weaknesses. Interestingly, his wife, Michelle, has the same name.
Lisa, challenge.
There was a bit more of an arc than you normally do before you said Michelle, so I'm going to say hesitation.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
All right,
That's very
fair
common.
I want to hear more about
You've backed right off, haven't you?
I bet. Because I think maybe if I'm a bit cool, I'll get a bit further.
Could I ask if you two could stop playing the game to each other? Because I can't always see your faces there. So I
We're
certainly
sitting
need to
knee
explain
to
it to you.
knee.
We're sitting, yeah.
42 seconds available for you, Lisa. You've taken back vegetarianism. Start now.
Pythagoras was a vegetarian, as was Plato. And if you want to avoid anemia, it's probably quite good to load up on B12, although it's not necessarily the right thing to do because it might cause other problems. For 11 years, I did not eat meat. And for the same period of time, every time I went home to Tarby Towers, it's just getting good.
There was a slight hesitation, but I'm annoyed because I'm really involved in the story, more so than by rights I
No,
should
I
be.
don't
Do you know,
think-
we are playing a game, though, aren't we? And we ought to adhere to that. But somebody
No, I
has
don't
given me
think
the
you
wrong
did
tongue.
hesitate.
No.
I don't think you hesitated enough to be give it
I nearly
penalised.
did.
No, you nearly did, yes. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, I've lost my flow.
Well, darling, I'm saying you'll soon get it back again. Take a deep breath. This audience will inspire you. Give her her flow back, please, audience.
Heaven.
23 seconds, vegetarianism, Liza, starting now.
Big Jim would often say to me, in fact, every single time we sat down to dinner, if you're hungry, there's a whole grass out there. Oh! Murdered
Giles,
it. Don't
yes.
give me another chance.
Giles, your challenge.
Hesitation.
That was a
I
hesitation.
murdered the gag.
16 seconds, vegetarianism is with you, Giles, starting now.
Beetroot, carrot, endive, the whole range of the vegetarian diet is something that I find extraordinary to look at, to cook, to taste, the sumptuous delicacy.
Paul, challenge.
Quite a few lots of twos to cook, to taste.
Took, yes, to toast, to two, to two,
Chance
to two,
to dream.
two.
Yes.
So a tough challenge, but it's
What
correct.
vegetarian
Correct.
burgers made?
4 seconds are still available for vegetarianism with you, Paul, starting now.
When I look at the broad bean, I realise it represents everything I want in life.
So we now have a very close situation. Paul now with that extra point has taken the lead. He's only 2 ahead of Gyles, Brandreth and Sue Perkins, equal in second place, and they're only 2 ahead of Liza Tarbuck in 4th place. So we're neck and neck, and Paul, your turn to begin, and the subject now is chemistry. Can you tell us something about that in this game starting now?
Well, the short answer is no. I did O-level chemistry. I sat there for 3.5 hours, wrote the same sentence, lime water turns milky, and fell asleep. That was the sum total of my knowledge of chemistry. Over to somebody else.
A very generous gesture. Liza, you got in first. And
It was the only time I have been able to get in.
Yeah.
My thumbs haven't been quick enough.
No, you've been
Well
very
played.
good. You're well in there, my love, with all the others. You've got chemistry. I don't say you have chemistry. You have your own natural chemistry, but the subject.
I don't know what's going on here tonight, I swear.
It's just to build up your morale, darling, so that you'll flow again, as you said before.
It's called grooming.
Chemistry is the subject, Lisa. 49 seconds starting now.
Getting metal out of stones was something that thrilled people of yesteryear, and it was then called alchemy, but moved into a chemistry session later on. To turn something from...
Giles challenge.
Felt there was hesitation.
There was hesitation, I'm afraid, Lisa.
settling
Right,
into it.
yes.
It's going to become clear that no one knows anything about chemistry.
I was honest, you see. I don't know enough.
Chemistry is with you, Giles, now, and there are 38 seconds starting now.
In chemistry at school, I sat next to a girl called Diana, and one day abruptly she left the class because she thought the teacher had said, "Come on, Di, outside." In fact, he was referring to carbon dioxide. Her interest in the subject was as lean as mine, but we did enjoy experimenting with the Bunsen burner. Oh, she managed to roast some of my
Lisa
finest...
challenge.
A wobbling she there,
Yeah.
as you clutch for the next word, which I appreciate and like, but I'm playing the game.
So, you had the benefit of the doubt, you have the subject, you have chemistry's back with you, 18 seconds
Oh, God.
starting now.
I like chemistry a lot and used to do it at school, obviously. We used to turn...
Sue challenge.
I have thought a bit of hesitation.
There was a
I'll
very
give you
bit of
that.
hesitation, yes. So, Sue, you have chemistry, 12 seconds starting now.
Once a woman showed me a beaker, shoved it in a fume cupboard and said, "How about that?" I didn't know what was going on. Copper sulfate was involved and iron filings. This huge black tower of smoke arose from said container.
Fine, so Sue Perkins, speaking as a whistle when, gained that extra point. So let me give you the situation as we go into the final round. Liza Tarbuck is only trailing just a little in 4th place. She's only 1 behind Gyles Brandreth in 2nd place, because out in the lead equal are Sue Perkins and Paul Merton. It's anybody's contest or game if you're interested in the points, but I always think the fun's more important. Gyles, it's your turn to begin, and the subject now is something money can't buy. Would you tell us something about that subject in this game starting now?
Thinking back to what Paul was saying about going to one of Max Mosley's parties, that's where he and I originally met. And looking around the room, I thought, of course, it's judgment that money can't buy. It was there that my friend explained to me the difference between the erotic and the perverse. With the former, of course, you use your feather gently and lightly. With the latter, you use the entire chicken. Now, this discovery
Sue, your challenge.
Hesitation.
Giles, actually, I don't think he was hesitating, but so I was an incorrect challenge, so you have another point. Something money can't buy, starting now.
Style. What you've got, Nicholas, in spades. Elegance, allure, panache, and indeed cravats that are not just bulletproof, but could be worn by dolphins. They are certain.
I'd agree with that.
Lisa,
I agree with absolutely everything, but I do think you can buy style because now people do it for a job.
Oh, not
Stylists.
Oh, wow.
Lisa, what is your challenge, darling? Tell me, because I can make the
He's
decision.
saying that you can't buy a style. I think you can.
You can buy a style,
So it's
yes.
deviation.
Oh, in that sense, a very subtle challenge, yes, but I think I'll give you the benefit of the doubt.
Thank you,
can,
my
yes.
darling.
Why did you go for deviation on dolphins wearing cravats? I mean, that...
Dolphins, you say?
She said dolphins with cravats.
They can't abide a cravat.
Shall I
Everyone
go
knows
get the
that.
man?
Yeah,
No,
get
no.
the man.
Okay.
A waistcoat's fine, but not...
Right, you have the benefit of the doubt, Lisa. You have something money can't buy, 23 seconds starting now.
I think the main thing that money can't buy is time, followed by love, possibly happiness, and definitely peace of mind. You can go through life wanting all of these things and amassing a great fortune, but...
Lisa, Giles challenge again.
If you can't buy style, what are you doing when you get a watch but buying time?
I don't remember
buying an
asking
instrument
Mr.
that measures time.
Smartass to tea.
No, it's all right, Giles.
I didn't mention a
Paul
watch.
has given
I
you
don't
your
wear one.
answer.
Sorry, my lord.
No, Paul has given the answer.
It's a good answer.
It's a very good answer, yes. So Lisa has still got the subject. Something money can't buy. 11 seconds starting now.
Money can't buy this moment for me sitting next to Gyles Brandreth discussing the ins and outs of his intricate and interesting crocheted mind.
So Liza Tarbuck, who was speaking then as a whistle-wing, gained that extra point for doing so. With others in the round, she complained last time she was with us that she never wins. But I can tell you now, this is a very interesting result, actually, because Paul Merton, Sue Perkins, and Gyles Brandreth are all equal in second place. And with that flourish about style, or something that money can't buy, she forged ahead. And 1 point ahead of them is our winner this week, Liza Tarbuck. So it only remains for me to say thank you to these four fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Sue Perkins, Liza Tarbuck, and Gyles Brandreth. I also thank Sarah Sharp, who's kept the score for me so carefully and blown her whistle very delicately. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. We're grateful to our producer, Claire Jones, for all that she puts into the show. And we're grateful to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre. Thank you for cheering us on our way. Tune in the next time we play Just a Minute. Bye-bye. Welcome to Just a Minute. Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners in this country and, of course, around the world, but also to welcome to the show four exciting, diverse, and talented individuals who this week are going to play Just a Minute. And they are seated on my right. We welcome that fine exponent of this game, that outstanding comedian, Paul Merton. And seated beside him, we have another fine comedian who's also a writer, that is Chris Neill. And seated on my left, we have a lovely stand-up comedian who's also a fine humorous writer, Tony Hawks. And seated beside him, someone who's never played the game before, another fine comedian and a great presenter as well, Justin Moorhouse. Will you please welcome all four of them? And as usual, I'm going to ask them to speak, if they can, on a subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Seated beside me is Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me keep the score and blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Performing Arts Centre in Lincoln, which is part of the University of Lincoln. And we have a fine Lincolnshire audience drawn from all quarters of this large county, and I hope also a sprinkling of students as we begin the show with Paul Merton. Paul, the subject to start with is 5 things to do with a potato.
Looking at you, I can think of 6.
I thought you were rather thrown with the subject, but I thought you're now obviously thrilled to have it. So Tell us something in 60 seconds if you can, starting now.
Boiled potato, baked potatoes, mashed potato, roast potato, and chipped potato. It's an incredibly versatile vegetable, the potato. If it's given enough chances in life, it can learn to tap dance to a semi-professional standard, take on a job at the local McDonald's where it has the unorthodox, terrifying thing of selling its own cousins away as French fries. A kind of cannibalism which I think is wrong in this country today, that so many of the potato that we have here is unable to find full-time employment in now, which of course is the credit crunch. Should other vegetables, perhaps like...
Justin Trounce.
Repetition of vegetable?
Yes, he did. He said at the beginning, yes, he's a versatile. Very versatile. Justin, first time to play the game, first person to challenge. Right, so you got in, and you have the subject of 5 things to do with a potato. 23 seconds available, starting now.
There's another thing.
Christian challenge.
Hesitation.
Oh, shut up. Absolutely wrong. Anyway, you've given him a point, so don't worry, Justin. So, what a way to treat a first-time player of the game. So you have a point, because you've got 2 points now.
Thank you very much.
So, Justin, you've got 22 seconds still available. 5 things to do with a potato, starting now.
There's a 6th thing you can do with a potato, and that's the dauphinoise. I was just so pleased that I said dauphinoise correctly. I don't know what it is. I
know. Oh, yes. Does anybody else know what it is?
Yeah.
What is it, Chris?
Well, it's a baked dish where you take the slices of, you don't want them too waxy, you don't want them too floury, like red potato, something like that, and Maris Piper's too woolly, and you cook them slowly in cream, maybe with some thyme and garlic, and then put them in a baking dish.
Sorry, could you slow down? I'm taking this down as a recipe.
You can put cheese on the top, but there's a bit of a debate about that.
Right.
Has been, yes.
And then you put it in a hot oven for about an hour. It's very good with roast lamb.
Right. Well, if you want to also know about cooking, tune in to Just a Minute. Yeah. And also, it's the food programme follows us on a Sunday, so you've got...
They'll be disappointed that week, yes.
Yeah. Who challenged? You challenged, didn't you, Tony?
I did challenge, and I challenged for the the old-fashioned challenge of hesitation.
And you were absolutely right, because he not only hesitated, he stopped.
He did.
Right. Tony, a point to you for a correct challenge. 17 seconds available. You tell us something about 5 things to do with the potato, starting now.
One of the most magnificent things about living in this great country of ours is that there are hardly any legal restrictions on what you can do with a potato.
Paul challenge.
Well, I challenged just before he got to the word potato, so I didn't think he was going to, but I was going to go for deviation, but I think as I challenged, he did say potato. So,
he did say potato, yes. He was winding down, but he was keeping going to the whistle when, but he's still got 6 more seconds. He got another point, of course, Tony. 5 things to do with a potato, starting now.
I often take a wheelbarrow, pop a potato into it, and walk it to the local church, declaring...
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point on this occasion. It was Tony Hawks. He's in the lead now, ahead of Justin Moorhouse and then Chris Neill and Paul. Chris Neill, will you begin the next round? The subject is moles. Will you tell us something about moles in this game, starting now?
Moles are small, dark, hairy creatures with rather poor eyesight, and therefore I feel a great affinity with them. They live under fields and are the bane of many a farmer's life. Up they will pop, ruining his crop in that particular section. If only workmen could efficiently dig and fill in a hole... No, I suppose moles don't really fill in a hole, do they?
Tony, you challenged.
Well, he was going so well that he decided to sabotage.
I know, I
his
started
own
having a
speech.
conversation with myself.
He did repeat dig.
You're the
Yeah.
one player of the game, Chris, who, when you slip up, draws attention to it. Gives it a chance. Anyway, so correct challenge, Tony. 38 seconds. Tell us something about moles starting now.
There were famous moles, Philby.
A bit of a hesitation
There was a definitely.
yeah.
Yes,
My
yes.
fifth word
So,
was
Paul, tell us something about moles. 35 seconds available, starting now.
There was a popular song that went, I am a mole and I live in a hole. And in those...
Justin, challenge.
Repetition of whole.
No, I'm in a mole and live in a hole.
Chris not say whole before.
No, it doesn't matter. He said it, but Paul hasn't said it. Justin, the
Nicholas,
game
can I
of- the
just put
game
my
of-
hands up and say, that's not what they all told me before. At the same time, they said they'd go easy on me at the beginning.
But you're the one making the challenges. We're not going hard on you, you know.
Justin, if we couldn't repeat words that other people have said as well as the words we've said ourselves, I think it would be an impossible game to play.
The programme's
like
been going
that.
for 40 years, so every word that everyone's said in that time...
Sorry.
The next thing is your challenge for people, something I said about 20 years ago. But bad luck. We'll try it. Lovely to hear from you, Justin. And
It'll be the last time.
no, don't be inhibited, please. Right. Paul, you have moles still. 30 seconds, starting now.
I have a place in the country which has a lovely lawn and there are these molehills all over it, but I don't take the view that somehow I should do something to get rid of this creature because, as far as I'm concerned, it's his natural habitat and I've just got a mortgage on it. So why shouldn't he stay there? And I think if we look around and we see the thing that moles can do...
Chris, challenge.
Were there two things? Or as I said that, I wonder if one was a think and a thing.
No,
I don't know, is anyone recording this so we can check?
I think it was a think and a thing.
That's right. He's
Yeah.
a think and a thing. You're sitting next to him, so we do
It should
rely-
get to me more quickly, really, shouldn't it?
Yeah, yes.
It's going off a satellite.
14 seconds still available, Paul. Moles starting now.
Anthony Blunt was one of the great moles that betrayed this country after the Second World War. He was also the Queen's advisor to royal paintings, and I wonder, as they wandered through Buckingham...
Tony, challenge.
No, I don't think he did anything wrong at all, actually.
I think it's good of you to reassure him. I think you got confused between wander
He said
and
wonder
wonder.
and wonder and wonder, you
He
see.
wandered and
Yeah.
wondered, yes. So 4 seconds, Paul, still on moles with you, starting now.
The mole is a black creature that looks you straight in the eye.
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so, and at the end of the round has left 49 the lead, just ahead of Tony Hawks, then Justin Moorhouse and Chris Neill. And Justin, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is social networking. I don't know whether it's something that you indulge in, but can you talk on the subject?
Not anymore, it's not. After tonight.
Starting now.
Social networking is a very interesting phenomenon, I believe, in this country. There'll be people sat here who do that kind of thing on the internet. Nice to see you out at the house instead of updating your statuses. The two main things are Facebook and MySpace. Never get those confused. Never invite anybody onto your
There was a repetition of never.
Yeah, never do that, never. A little tip. If you speak a little slower, you'll probably find it easier. Chris, you have a correct challenge. You have 45 seconds. Social networking starting now.
Social networking is a way of not having to actually see real-life friends ever again. You can sit in front of your computer terminal, whether it be a desktop or a laptop, and...
Justin, challenge.
I was going to say repetition of top.
Well, I think you'd be wrong.
I know I am.
It was a repetition, but desktop and laptop are one word.
I know.
So I'm sorry about that, Justin. But no, we love your keenness.
I've breathed more than once. Do you want to get me on that as well? Oh, stop being so queenie.
I don't know why you're offended, because you gain points from the wrong
I know, I
challenge.
don't know why.
No.
Well, I give up my rightful place of coming last.
33 seconds, Chris. Social networking starting now.
If you've not seen a pal on one of these social networking sites for a while, you can poke them, which means you throw a sheep at them or a turk or...
Justin, challenge.
Repetition of them.
Yes?
Oh.
Sharp listening now. Justin, we're back with you. 44 seconds available. Social networking starting now.
I said to my father, what did you do before social networking? He said, I had real friends. I said, that's interesting.
Paul, challenge.
Repetition of said.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but Justin just challenged for them, so once you establish the rules on which you're prepared to challenge, then you must equally live by the sword as well as you die by it.
And they are the rules of the game.
Yes,
Said is quite a strong word. 18 seconds, Paul. Social networking starting now.
I've known more friends through doing just a minute than anything else, which gives you some idea what a miserable life will look like in 1970s. As I look around, I see here all my friends looking at me, Nicholas.
Tony, challenge.
Yeah, repetition of friends.
You had too many
right,
friends. Yes. Tony Hawks, we're going to hear from you on this subject as well. And you have 9 seconds still. Social networking, starting now.
I think I may have lost a lot of friends as a result of social networking. I receive an email saying, would you like to be a mate?
So, Tony Hawks was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. He's now equal in the lead with Paul Merton, followed by Justin Moorhouse and Chris Neill. That order. All right, Paul, it's your turn to begin, and the subject is honorary degrees. Ooh, there's a frisson went through the audience then. Tell us something about that subject, Paul, in this game starting now.
I don't have any honorary degrees, but I'm open to offers. I wrote a book about silent comedy about 2 years ago that may be considered eligible for an honorary degree, and I believe our esteemed chairman, Mr. Nicholas Parsons, collects them like old shopping bags, don't you? He's got 15 honorary degrees from Glasgow, Aberdeen, Edinburgh, Inverness, he's always been very popular in Scotland, Swansea, Cardiff, Oswestry, which, as you know, is on the border between England and Wales, and I believe he's also...
Justin, you've challenged.
Deviation.
Yes, I haven't had honorary degrees from all those places. I have one from Lincoln, of which I am truly proud.
I think that's a national scandal.
So it was deviation. I haven't had all those. So, Justin, you've got the subject. 32 seconds. Honorary degrees starting now.
I don't think I could have got a degree from any university because I'm not intelligent enough. I did...
No, it's a shame he's not intelligent enough. You're right. You're right to show sympathy.
Yeah.
I was going to challenge the audience. He's absolutely right. Of course, that's why he's not got an honorary degree.
But you did challenge. You were challenging the audience. You can't do that in this game.
There was a hesitation a moment
There was
ago.
a long hesitation.
Yeah.
He paused because the audience gave this huge wail of sympathy towards him.
Yeah.
But we have to go by the rules in just a minute, and you have to keep
It's a
going.
hard game. Deal with it. Yeah.
So let's hear from you on honorary degrees, Chris. 17 seconds, starting now.
I haven't got any honorary degrees, unlike Dale Winton, who's got an honorary degree in tanning booths from the University of Worksop.
Justin, challenge.
Deviation.
Because it's not true.
No, it's not true at all, is it?
No, he hasn't got a honorary. You couldn't have it in tanning booths. It's a lovely idea, but didn't get
Is
very
that a
much
small
of a...
town in Somerset? Tanning booths. I've had a postcard from there.
It's a lovely thought, Chris, but it wasn't correct. So, Justin, you have another point, and you still have the subject. 10 seconds. Honorary degrees starting now.
It's one of the things that makes this country great, that we can still bestow upon even the thickest members of the public an honorary degree.
Justin, you were speaking as the whistle went. You gained an extra point for doing so. You move forward. You're still in third place. You're just behind Tony Hawks and a few points behind Paul Merton. Chris is trailing a little. And Chris, subject is men who wear glasses. I should explain to our listeners, in case you want to know, Chris wears glasses, I wear glasses, Justin Moorhouse wears glasses. That is the subject. For 60 seconds, starting now.
Men who wear glasses usually, or quite often, started out as boys who wear glasses. I was 7 when I had my first pair of glasses, and I remember the optician had breath which could strip the paint off a car. And when I came round, my mother had to throw water on me to bring me back to the seat. She said, "No," she said, "son."
Justin challenged.
Repetition of she?
Yes, she.
It's a lovely story.
Well, Chris, maybe you'll get in again and finish it, but by the rules of just a minute, you have a challenge against you. Justin, a point to you, 38 seconds. Men who wear glasses, starting now.
Men who wear glasses are always the first subject I go for in any game of Guess Who. Then I go for men who have beards.
And Tony, challenge.
I think repetition of go for.
Go for, yes, men who go for. And so, 32 seconds. Tony, with you, men who wear glasses, starting now.
Men wearing glasses doesn't necessarily mean they have anything in common. Gandhi wore glasses, so does Timmy Mallet. That doesn't mean, of course, that they could have.
Justin, challenge.
Repetition of mean.
Yep.
Yes, mean, definitely. Well listened, Justin. 21 seconds. Back with you, men who wear glasses, starting now.
You may say Timmy Mallet and Gandhi have nothing in common, but I've seen them both in nappies. I often play...
What's your challenge, Chris?
Well, it's not really about wearing glasses, it's about nappies, deviation from something.
No, he established the fact that they both wear glasses. And,
Oh, I
and he
see.
went on to say that he's seen them both in
they
nappies.
do, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, isn't it?
I don't know. Is it insulting to say Gandhi wore nappies? I don't know.
Probably is.
The great
well,
men of the 20th
We
century.
won't dwell on that. But,
No.
So, Justin, you have another point, and you have 15 seconds, men who wear glasses, starting now.
There aren't many men who wear glasses who are in power. Gordon Brown doesn't wear glasses, neither does Alistair Darling, neither did Margaret Thatcher.
Chris, challenge.
Well, Alistair Darling does wear glasses.
Well, it doesn't matter.
When did he start wearing glasses?
Alistair Darling wears glasses, doesn't he?
Definitely. And the audience have endorsed it.
I remember sometimes when he falls asleep and the book drops, I have to take his glasses off and put them at the bedside table, so I do know that, actually.
Chris, you've got a correct challenge. 8 seconds. Men who wear glasses, starting now.
Men who wear glasses come, as we've discovered, from a variety of fields of work and life in general.
So, Chris Neill got some points in that round, including one for speaking when the whistle went. He's moved forward. He's still in 4th place, but he's moved. And, but he's not very far behind. Justin, Moorhouse and Tony Hawkes, both equal in 2nd place. 2 points behind our leader, Paul Merton. And Justin, we're back with you to begin. And the subject we'd like you to start with is poker. I don't know whether you're exponent of that, a wonderful card game, but anyway, talk on it. 60 seconds, starting now.
I've often played poker. I've played Texas Hold'em. People often say I have a poker face, like a jack of clubs. But the problem I have had playing poker is that I'm not very good at it. I try, but I like this game.
Sudden loss of oxygen.
That's right. He tried, but he failed.
I was concentrating on trying to talk slowly, and then I forgot what I was going to say. I can't do 2 things at once.
Paul, correct challenge, another point to you. 48 seconds available. Poker, starting now.
One of the joys of a real coal fire is being able to get a hold of a poker and to disturb the embers and the flames and the burning coals that you see in front of you. And you think to yourself, this magnificent poker, it may be made of iron, that's usually the best. If you go for the paper ones, they don't last as long as you think they might. We had a cardboard poker that lasted for quite a long time, in fact, all the way from New Year 1968 through to Christmas Day 1972. And we looked after it like it was one of the family. It actually resembled Uncle Albert, and he was a lovely man who used to sit outside when the sun shone and inside when it was raining.
Tony, challenge.
I think he was doing a clever little ploy of... He'd run out of things to say about pokers, and it was deviation because he was telling us about Uncle Albert.
Yeah.
No, I mean, the poker looked like Uncle Albert.
Yeah.
A cardboard poker. This cardboard poker that lasted 4 years.
Yes.
Looked like Uncle Albert.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you go into the realms of the surreal, you have to accept all kinds of unusual
You
suggestions.
don't have to defend it, though, do you?
No, but you established that your cardboard
And also,
poker...
you didn't say that you'd actually used the cardboard one, had
No,
you?
no, we couldn't because it was made of cardboard. It wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes in the bar.
Well, yeah.
We may have been working class, but we weren't stupid.
Yeah.
We understood.
It would have been rude to Uncle Albert anyway, wouldn't it?
Well, exactly.
To have stuffed
No,
him
no,
up.
I've got them confused.
Indeed,
And,
that's why we didn't do it.
And maybe you had a cardboard cutout of Uncle Albert
No,
as
don't
well.
be ridiculous. I think you wander into the realms of fantasy there, I think.
You've got another point, Paul. 13 seconds. Poker starting now.
Some of my friends at the Comedy Store Players like to get together for poker evenings, and I joined them once, but unfortunately I didn't take it as seriously as the rest of them. They like to get together in a circle, have the cards dealt out, and seriously play the...
Again, gained another point. He's moved forward a little bit ahead of all the others. And let me tell you the situation as we move in the final round. Chris Neill is trailing just a little in 4th place. He's behind Tony Hawks. And then just ahead of him is Justin Moorhouse, who hasn't played it so often. And 5 or 6 points ahead of Justin is Paul Merton, who's in the lead as we go into the last round. And it comes round to you, Paul, to begin. And the subject to start with is the best thing about the person next to me. I should explain to our listeners, Paul has now moved round in his chair and is now facing Chris Neill. And he's going to start with 60 seconds to go now.
The best thing about the person sitting next to me is I can see a reflection of myself in his eyes. Gorgeous creature I am. Hair of spun gold.
Justin challenged.
Deviation?
Why?
It was about Paul and not Chris.
But I could see the reflection in his eyes. That's the best thing about him, my reflection in his eyes.
Cheers. Yeah.
I
didn't say it was kind.
I think it was quite logical what you said, Justin. So he has another point, keeps the subject, 52 seconds. The best thing about the person next to me, starting now.
It's his indomitable...
Chris challenged.
Deviation, because earlier you said that you could see the reflection of you and you had hair of spun gold.
You've got to get your eyes seen to. I think it's asleep in your corner of your eyes, that's what I'm seeing.
So what's the challenge, Chris?
Well, it's not... Paul's not really... He's got a lovely head of hair, but it's more sort of matted grey.
Grey?
Right. I must say, Paul, as much as I do admire your fine head of hair, I wouldn't describe it as spun gold.
No. So how do you feel about matted grey?
I wouldn't have allowed that either.
No.
So there you are. That's a good friend. Right. Chris, I wondered who you were for a minute. You got the correct...
Oh, but hang on a second. Chris challenged after I'd started again, and the spun hair had been in the previous bit. So I started again, I got one word out, and then Chris said the thing about spun hair, but I'd been in the previous bit.
You can't have retrospective stuff, otherwise I'd have another go at that cardboard poker.
You're perfectly right, Paul. Yeah. You can't have retrospective challenges. No. So 52 seconds is with Paul now. The best thing about the person next to me, starting now.
Reasonable, well-balanced. These are just some of the qualities that he aspires to. He's a fantastic creature. If God is a man, and surely he can be here in proud Lincoln, then he must look like Chris Neill. I'd be quite prepared to walk into a church where all the statues had his head on them, and I would bow down before them.
Don't challenge!
Tony, you
Well, I had to stop, otherwise it would have gone to Chris's head, obviously. But there were a few woulds in there. I would.
Well, listen, Tony.
Yeah, well done. Yes. Well done, you.
You've had your 30 seconds of adulation. Now relax, Chris. 31 seconds, Tony, are still available. The best thing about the person next to me, starting now.
I should point out that I am sat at the end of...
Justin challenge.
There's nothing really great about me, so he was obviously going to deviate.
Your modesty gains you a bonus point. As we enjoy what you say.
Even though it veers on the cusp of sickening...
Strap yourself in for this bit, then.
Had so many compliments, right. 29 seconds. Tony, of course, you got a point because you were interrupted. 29 seconds with you. The best thing about the person next to me, starting now.
I'm seated on the end of the table, so the person next to me is an A1 in the front row and possibly a farmer, you cannot be sure. But I can tell you the best thing about him is his beard. It is magnificent.
Chris challenge.
Deviation, it's a woman.
I have to point out, well, this is...
To be fair, she's not shaved,
but it is... And Tony was overcome with embarrassment, and he's gone down on his knees in supplication to her and said, I'm very, very sorry. Yes, I think it was apologies. I don't know. But, so, Chris, yes, you've got a correct challenge there. And you've got 8 seconds to say something about the best thing about the person next to me, starting now.
Paul Merton is the person sitting next to me, and some of the very best things about him are his judgment, his sense, his...
Neil was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and at the end of that round, he's brought the show to a close. I'm just getting the final scores from Sarah, and I can let you know that Chris, in spite of his humorous contribution, in particular that last remark he made, has finished up in a very strong 4th place. Tony Hawks, who's been known to triumph in this show, finished in 3rd place, only 2 or 3 points ahead. But 1 point ahead of him was the fellow who's never played the game before. Did extremely well in 2nd place, Justin Moorhouse. But a few points ahead of him and all the others is Paul Merton. So once again we say, Paul, you are the winner this week. It only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 fine players and great humorists of this game. Paul Merton, Chris Neill, Justin Moorhouse and Tony Hawks. I also thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score. She's blown her whistle very delicately. We're indebted to our producer, Claire Jones, and particularly indebted to the man who created this lovely game, Ian Messiter. And his family will be delighted to hear that extra round of applause. And we are indebted to this lovely audience here at the Performing Arts Centre here at the University of Lincoln, who've cheered us on our way magnificently. From our lovely Lincolnshire audience, from the panel and from me, Nicholas Parsons, thank you for tuning in. Be with us the next time we play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners in this country and, of course, around the world, but also to welcome to the show this week 4 exciting, dynamic and diverse personalities who are going to play Just a Minute. And they are seated on my right. With great pleasure, we welcome that great exponent of this game, that fine comedian, Paul Merton. And seated beside him, another fine exponent of this show, our veteran player of the game, Clement Freud. And seated on my left, we welcome back, after a long absence, that brilliant and superb actress, Sheila Hancock. And seated beside her, somebody who's never played the game before, but has come with confidence and trepidation into this game. That is that wonderful comedian and actor, David Mitchell. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me sits Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me keep the score, run the stopwatch and blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Radio Theatre in the heart of Broadcasting House, and we have a very excited, warmed-up audience here in front of us, longing for us to begin the show. And David, we'd like you to take the first subject, which is Cinderella. Can you tell us something about Cinderella in this game, starting now?
You know, people think because someone hasn't played the game before that you should be kind to them. Well, he hesitated.
Clement...
It was the most obvious hesitation.
Clement, he didn't hesitate. An incorrect challenge.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll make sure not to hesitate this time either.
No. So you have your first point, and you have...
That's actually a rate of point scoring of infinity per word.
Yes. And
I'll never keep it up.
But you're getting your laughs as well, which is great. You have 59 3/4 seconds.
Nearly there.
To continue with Cinderella, starting now.
Cinderella is a pantomime and a fairy tale, and if you're running a regional theatre, you'll be aware that you'll make more money if you put Cinderella on than any of the other stories that you can base that kind of show on around Christmas, such as Mother Goose or Dick Whittington. They'll all take less cash for you, because even though everyone knows the story of Cinderella, people don't really go to the theatre.
Sheila challenged.
Is it repetition of story?
Yes, that's right. She did mention the story right at the beginning of the story.
Well...
Sheila, you have a correct challenge. You have the subject of Cinderella, and there are 37 seconds available starting now.
When I was young and lithe, I actually appeared in Cinderella playing...
Paul, challenge.
You mean you're not live now?
Lithe!
Oh, live, sorry. I'm awfully sorry. Just the people at home thought we might have been listening to a recording.
I got a point.
L-I-T-H-E. I think it is an E at the end, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. And you had an incorrect challenge. You have another point. We haven't got your first point, actually. And there are 33 seconds starting now.
I played Principal Boy, both Prince Charming and, at another occasion, Dandini, who is Prince...
Repetition of Prince.
I'm afraid so, yeah.
That's right. And so, Paul, you now have Cinderella. You have the subject of Cinderella.
I wonder if it'll fit.
26 seconds available starting now.
I was one...
Oh, Sheila, you challenged.
Well, I just thought it might be hesitation, but it wasn't. You buzzed as well, didn't you?
Oh, yes, I definitely buzzed as well. I think
We both thought it was hesitation.
You thought it was going to be hesitation?
Yeah.
You can't have anticipatory...
No, we just wanted to get our oar in, didn't we?
Yes, sometimes you can tell when
You've got your oar
someone's...
in magnificently. You've got 2 or 3 points, and you've been
Have I?
going very well on Cinderella.
All right.
Told us how you started it many times. And Paul's now got the subject. 25 seconds to go. Cinderella starting now.
I did a TV version and myself and Ronnie Corbett played ugly sisters, and it's a wonderful role to play in a pantomime. Get the chance...
Clement, challenge.
Repetition of play?
No. Thank you, audience. You're very kind. No, he didn't say we played Ugly Sisters. He said we were the Ugly Sisters.
Yeah.
So it was a good
Bad
attempt,
challenge.
Clement, but it was an incorrect challenge.
Bad.
Paul has another point.
It wasn't a bad challenge, Clement. It's a challenge that was just mistaken in its beliefs.
Don't be kind.
There's no bad challenges, just some more idiotic than others.
But Paul, there are 18 seconds available. Cinderella starting now.
If you get the chance to dress up in female clothing for a laugh, it's enormous fun. I'm not...
David, challenge.
Deviation. He's talking about cross-dressing now. That's another...
Ugly sister. Exactly opposite. It's a pleasure.
Is it?
I mean, in the story of Cinderella, the ugly sister is actually a woman, I think.
But also, the Ugly Sisters put on female clothes, and they're usually fellas, and so it's cross-dressing. Yes, you're perfectly right, but that's one of the parts of pantomime, isn't it?
Okay. Well, I thought... I thought...
I'll tell you what, David, we enjoyed the interruption and the laugh you got, so we give you a bonus point for that. And Paul has a point for being interrupted. You've got this audience with you, David. And he has 13 seconds still available. Cinderella, Paul, starting now.
The highlight of the production was when Cinderella came down the stairs, and upon her feet she wore a glass slipper. But then, as she turned to the finger buffet...
David, challenge.
Deviation. She must have been wearing 2 glass slippers on her feet, not just one.
No, this is her on her way out when she left one behind.
Oh. You've just ruined the end of the story for me.
If you haven't heard it by now...
Paul, another incorrect challenge. 4 seconds. Cinderella starting now.
The Birmingham Hippodrome was a magnificent theatre, and there I saw...
So, Paul Merton speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. He's now taken the lead ahead of Clement Freud, and David Mitchell and Sheila Hancock are trailing just 2 points behind. And Clement, would you begin the next round? Beefeaters. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
If you are a vegetarian and want to be a beefeater, it would be sensible to wear a fur hat. Oddly enough, the history of the word comes... Could you stop, Merton, looking at me while I talk?
I have to explain to our listeners, the reason we've got that continuous chuckle going around the audience is that all of us were rather surprised at what Clement was saying, and Paul particularly was looking at him in a very strange way. It put him off completely, so he dried up, which is very unusual for you.
I didn't dry up.
What do you do then? You
I wanted a bonus point for being looked at.
So there we are. No, so you were interrupted, I'm afraid. Paul, what was your challenge?
Oh, hesitation.
Yes, indeed. Complete halt.
Yes, it was, wasn't it?
48 seconds. Beefeaters starting now.
You see them walking around the Tower of London. I don't really know why they are called Beefeaters. I'm sure it's got nothing to do with the consumption of animal meat, but maybe it has. Perhaps in the dark days of Lady Jane Grey, her continued supporters...
Clement challenge.
Lady Jane Grey didn't really have continued support.
Clement...
Don't you count the week?
That is open to debate. She had continuous support for 5 days while she reigned.
Yeah.
She
Not
reigned
so much after that.
After that, no. All the support fell away.
Yeah, it did.
And so did her head, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to say on that particular one. It was a clever challenge. So let me give you the bonus point, which you love. There we are. The audience agree with me. Paul, it was an incorrect challenge within the rules of just a minute, so you have another point. 35 seconds. Beefeaters starting now.
There was a pub nearby where I used to live in Fulham that advertised steak at £2.95 for a huge £10-pounder thing, and I thought that must...
Clement challenge.
Repetition of pound.
There was a pound,
Pounder.
yes.
No.
Pounder.
Pound and pounder.
That's right.
The didn't...
Did I say...
Ooh.
Did I say pounder?
Did say pounder.
Oh, okay,
definitely,
fine.
definitely.
Okay.
So, Clement, you're sitting next to him, but he did say pounder.
Yeah.
I'm further away, and so the audience, and they heard pounder as well.
Yeah.
Didn't you, audience? Yes. There we are. Endorsement. 27 seconds. Beefeaters still with you, Paul. Starting now.
Still with me?
Yeah. Yes. 27 seconds.
I thought... Sorry, didn't you say I had said pounder twice? I hadn't.
No, you hadn't said
No, I
pound
didn't think
twice.
I had.
You said pound and pounder.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But Clement's challenged you.
Deviation.
Why?
He didn't talk about the subject. He said, do you mean me?
Are you going to challenge him for hesitation or repetition
No,
or deviation?
deviation.
No, I mean, he didn't deviate because he hadn't actually started.
I am a beefeater, and I said, do you mean me?
26 seconds, Paul. Beefeaters starting now.
Do you mean me? Yes, he does. And so beefeating...
Clement challenge.
Repetition.
Clement, you've cracked it. Right, you're in there with a correct challenge. 23 seconds. Beefeaters starting now.
In France, the yeomen who protected the kings were called Beefeaters.
David challenged.
I thought that was hesitation.
He was going a bit slowly, but I don't think he...
Okay, all right.
Benefit of the doubt to you, Clement, because I know that you're very intense about this one. 19 seconds still. Beefeaters starting now.
It was their job to ensure that no one poisoned Louis the 9th, 10th, 11th.
Sheila Hancock.
He's not talking about beefeaters, he's talking about the yeomen in France.
That's right, he is. So that's deviation, isn't it?
Deviation.
So you have the subject now, Sheila?
They are yeomen.
And you
Oh,
have
God.
12 seconds on Beefeaters starting now.
As far as I know, the beefeaters in the tower look after the ravens, and I believe if...
Paul challenge.
I think there's quite a bit of jewellery there as well. It's not really the ravens, it's the crown jewels they're looking after.
Yeah, but the ravens need feeding, the jewellery doesn't.
No.
And also, I mean, it is perfectly correct, they do look after the ravens. They might look after the jewellery as well,
Yeah.
but they do have a commitment to the ravens.
Yes,
I
of course.
think Securicor looks after the jewellery now.
Yeah. It isn't the real jewellery anyway, it's
And the
false.
Curie
She
couldn't
was looking
care.
a bit cheap at the last opening of Parliament, wasn't she,
Yeah,
the
no.
Queen?
And yes,
That crown came from a pound shop, I thought to myself.
So, Sheila, you had an incorrect challenge. You still got the subject. 7 seconds. Beefeaters starting now.
I have a photograph of me as a little girl standing next to a beefeater in the tower with the raven.
Paul challenged.
Repetition of Tower.
Oh, you
Oh,
mentioned the tower
yes,
before, yes.
yes.
So, Paul, you've cleverly got in
Oh,
with...
he's got 1 second. He's doing
1 second
Clement's
to go,
trick.
yes. Oh. But it's the rules of the game. 1 second to go, Paul. Beefeaters starting now.
Medium rare!
So at the end of that round, Paul was then again speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. He's increased his lead slightly over Clement, who's increased his position slightly over Sheila Hancock and David Mitchell in that order. And Sheila, will you begin the next round? Sisters. What a lovely subject for you. Starting now.
I'm particularly interested in sisters at the moment because I'm about to start rehearsing a musical called Sister Act, which is a play about nuns. I, as a little girl, went to a convent for a little while called St. Ethel Readers in Ely Place, Holborn. The sisters were extremely kind to me because I hated the smell of incense. So I was allowed to sit in the glass partition at the back on their knees. And I used to think how odd it was that they were so fond of children, but they chose not to have them. Then later I went to Spain, and there was a monastery in Javia where you could buy cakes. You put money on a little roundabout, and out came a cake made by the...
Clement challenge.
Oh, I was doing well, too, wasn't I? Repetition of cake.
No, it was cake and cakes.
Cake and cakes.
No, it was cake and cakes, you said.
Oh, was it?
No,
Yes.
I didn't do it for repetition.
No.
What was it?
For saying, oh,
Oh.
when I buzzed you.
Oh. Am I not allowed to...
Okay, bad challenge again.
No, you did say cakes first.
Oh, did
and then
I?
you put the money in and you got a cake.
Right.
So it was singular and plural.
Okay.
So you're all right.
All right.
You've got another point. You've got 14 seconds. You've still got sisters starting now.
I got chatting to these sisters, and they invited me.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right, yes.
It's on the card.
Yeah, I
On the
know.
card, yes.
Thanks. That's an extra point. Wrong challenge.
So sorry, I was challenging with sisters. I thought it was sister on the card. But
No,
it was
no, it's
sisters.
sisters.
So sorry
How
about
many years have you been playing the game, Paul?
that. To be honest, I nodded off, and when I woke up, panicked.
I know. It's unbelievably boring, but I am keeping going.
Exactly.
I think
Secret of this game.
They're enjoying it, and they're discovering something fascinating about your early childhood.
Yes.
I'm enjoying it too.
Good.
I want to know more about the cakes.
Well, I can't think of anything more to say about that, but I'll try. Go
Well, you've
on.
got 11 seconds.
Have I?
Think very rapidly.
Okay.
Let the adrenaline pump.
Right.
Sisters is still with you,
Okay.
starting now.
When I was young, there were acts called the Beverly Sisters and the Andrew Sisters, who sang songs in medleys and were beautiful. One of the numbers was Sister.
So if you thought you were boring, Sheila, you would not have got that spontaneous round of applause at the end.
No.
You will speak as a whistle when you gain that extra point. You move forward with other points in the round, of course, and you're equal with Clement Freud in second place, just ahead of David Mitchell, and they're all trailing Paul a little. But Paul, it's your turn to start, and the subject now is making up. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
As part of the tools of the professional actor, he is used to making up when he appears in the theatre. But here, on radio, it is not necessary to attach the bluge or the rouge to your face. Because you cannot be seen by the great listeners throughout the British.
Clement challenge.
Hesitation?
Yes, there was a hesitation there, yes.
That's my natural rhythm.
Was it? I'm surprised no one challenged you for deviation on blues.
Yeah. It sounded like I knew what I was talking about at that point. I don't think that's what fooled people.
Yes, I'd be ashamed to admit that I don't know that blues exists.
Exactly. And maybe it does.
Yeah.
I think you were thinking of blusher.
Yeah, I think I was.
Right. Anyway, Clement, a correct challenge, a point to you. 42 seconds, making up, starting now.
Blues is a good word to make up. Many people...
David, you challenge.
Yes, well, there was a hesitation under a lovely long laugh.
I know. But unfortunately,
but, you know,
in just a minute, we have to ride the laughs because you can't actually pause. But anyway, you got a correct challenge of hesitation. Well listened. And 36 seconds available. Starting now.
Making up is one of my happiest memories from my childhood because at the age of 15, I spent an entire summer making up. Everyone at my school was charged with constructing an enormous preposition outside the school gates, and I...
Clement challenged.
School.
Repetition.
School gates, yes.
Yes, now I'm absolutely, completely destroyed, but I admit my guilt. like a banker.
Not destroyed.
But at least you have the honesty to admit it.
Yes. Well, that's, yeah. Well, they get bonuses, so...
And I think that remark deserves a bonus point. But Clement, you had a correct challenge, and you got making up, and 20 seconds available starting now.
The late great politician Barbara Castle not only made up for radio, but insisted on being made up I said that twice.
Sheila, you challenge.
Yeah, he said made up twice.
Yes, right, made up.
Yeah.
So, Sheila, you've got 11 seconds on this subject, making up, starting now.
Making up is very hard to do, but it is lovely after a quarrel to kiss and be friends again. It's something I enjoy hugely.
So Sheila Hancock was then speaking as the whistle went, getting that extra point, and so did Clement get points in the round, so they're both equal still in second place. Only now 2 points behind Paul Merton, and they're all a few points ahead of David Mitchell. And who's going to begin the next round for us, David? So the subject I've got here now is a tough one, I think, but just go on it. My carbon footprint.
Oh, come on.
60 seconds starting now.
As someone who doesn't drive a car, I'm not as worried about my carbon footprint as perhaps I should be. In fact, the only effort I...
Clement challenge.
In fact, twice.
Oh.
Eh? No.
Well, I didn't do it deliberately, but then why would I?
No, I said about giving benefits of the doubt. I gave Clement the benefit of the doubt last time against you, so I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt now against Clement. And you keep the subject, and you have 54 seconds. My carbon footprint starting now.
What I do to try and make my carbon footprint smaller is just to make sure that the standby light on the television...
Sheila's challenge.
There was 2 makes.
Yes, right.
To make my carbon footprint.
Make sure. That's right. Well, listen, Sheila. My carbon footprint, Sheila, 46 seconds starting now.
It is a disgrace because I do have an extremely unenvironmentally friendly car, but I try to make up for it by having solar panels on my roof, which provides my electricity and my heating and my water and
Clement
my...
challenge.
And my.
And my. Right, Clement, correct challenge. 31 seconds now for you on my carbon footprint starting now.
I have long waited to discuss the carbon dioxide emission that comes from my body, my knees, shoes, feet, and frankly, it is 8.47%, which is extremely high, dangerous, and putting hot water into my bottle at night, I realized I should not draw fresh CO2. I meant...
Paul challenge.
He meant to say H2O.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. No,
Didn't you? What did you mean to say?
Myxomatosis. And got it absolutely wrong.
You meant to say myxomatosis?
Yeah, always.
I withdraw my challenge.
You can no longer put CO2 or myxomatosis into your bottle.
No, exactly. I don't know what your carbon footprint would be.
But that's, therefore, illegitimate. Your challenge is legitimate.
Exactly.
But are you going to be generous and give it back to him, or are you going to keep it?
Oh, I thought he was struggling.
He was struggling.
So let him have it back.
All right. There's generosity for you. With 3 seconds to go, Clement, my carbon footprint starting now. Clement, Paul challenge.
Well, that was a hesitation.
Yes. Actually, it wasn't, but I'll give you a bonus point because we enjoyed the interruption. Clement, you have 2 seconds on my carbon footprint starting now. Clement challenge.
I thought you'd enjoy the interruption. You liked it so much last time.
Yes, I did enjoy the interruption, but you interrupted yourself. You buzzed. So what is your
I get
challenge?
2 points.
Let us
Even if it's the wrong challenge, you still get a point.
No, let us play the game, Clement. You have pressed your buzzer first. You use the challenge. What are you challenging yourself for?
Pleasing you.
That's not a legitimate challenge within the rules of just a minute. Nobody else tries to please me. They try to get points.
That's not fair. What about that pony I bought you? I bought him a pony.
Clement has pressed his buzzer, says he's trying to please me. Obviously, what he wants is another point. He's got his point. He's got 2 seconds to go. My carbon footprint starting now.
Greenery is...
So Clement Freud was then speaking as the whistle went, with other points he got in the round, some with the help of Paul Merton. He has moved forward. He's now in the lead ahead of Sheila Hancock and Paul Merton. Clement, it's your turn to begin, actually, and the subject we've got now is philately. So will you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
When I was a very young boy, we lived next to the Latterleys, and Phil was their eldest son, who collected stamps which had nothing to do at all with the family. But yes, he had Togo, Lago.
Sheila challenge.
Got to be a hesitation.
Definite hesitation, yes. Sheila, 45 seconds. Tell us something about Philately, starting now.
If Philately is to do with stamp collecting, that's what I did when I was young. You're getting the whole of my childhood on this programme. I used to buy little hinges that you lifted the stamps up and you could see the thing on the back. And I'm sure I had a penny black that was worth a fortune, but unfortunately it got lost in the very many moves that I had.
Oh, David challenged.
I thought there was a bit of a stumble there,
it was,
I'm doing too badly not to be brutal.
Yeah.
So I'm a cornered beast.
No, I'm...
You're contributing well. Correct challenge, David. And 26 seconds available. Philately, starting now.
I have never been particularly interested or understood why people collect the little things that you put on letters to try and determine how much has been paid in order for that to be delivered to the place that's written on it. I think that's an extremely dull topic.
Paul challenge.
You're allowed to use the word stamp.
I was saving that for later.
And, Paul, we enjoyed the interruption very much, so we give you a bonus point for that. And you were interrupted, David, so you get a point for that. And you keep the subject, and you have 13 seconds. Carry on with Philately, starting now.
Stamps that I have collected are the noise made by putting your foot loudly down onto the ground. I am extremely interested in them and think they are much more fascinating than the numbers that are stuck to letters.
So, David Mitchell was then speaking as the whistle went. He gained an extra point, got other points in the round. He's leapt forward. He's still in fourth place, but he's in a very... In fact, we're moving into the final round, I've just discovered. Yeah, the situation is that David is in the fourth place, but he's never played the game before. He's doing brilliantly. He's trailing Sheila by 3 points, and then comes Paul, who's 2 points ahead of Sheila Hancock. But out in the lead, and we're going to the final round, is Clement Freud. And Sheila, it's your turn to begin. The subject, soap. Tell us something about soap in this game, starting now.
Soap is one of my very favourite things, actually. Sitting in a bath with the smell of perfume, either honeysuckle, violet, lavender, jasmine, imperial leather, gives me a real high, and the bubbles that it causes that I can blow into the air. I also enjoy EastEnders hugely. I watch it regularly. And the highlight of
David
my...
has challenged you.
Well, EastEnders got nothing to do with your bath or your soap.
Soap, it's a soap.
It's a soap.
Oh, my God, I thought it was a proper quality drama. I thought it was just a five-parter and I'd missed it.
No, she did a big mental switch there, and she left you standing for a moment, David.
Yeah.
But anyway, she gets a point because she was interrupted there. An incorrect challenge. 35 seconds still with you, Sheila, on soap, starting now.
Well, all I can say is you don't know what you're missing. It is a wonderful programme. The actors pull out their emotional stops here, there and everywhere. They thrill me with their talent. The lighting is good, the direction is good, and...
Paul challenge.
Two goods, quite
Two
right.
goods, yes. The lighting's good, the other one's good. Paul, you got in on 20 seconds ago on the subject of soap, starting now.
Soap is a wonderful thing. If we think of it as a substance that gets us up in the morning by bathing ourselves in glorious liquid and covering our bodies in this magnificent substance that is soap.
Clement challenge.
Substance.
Yes, it's a...
Did I say
yes,
substance
yes.
twice?
Yeah, no, you repeated it.
Did I?
And so, Clement, well listened, 8 seconds ago on soap, starting now.
I rather like Mitcham Common because the smell of soap from the adjacent...
David challenged.
Oh, I thought I might have a hesitation, but I'm losing confidence now.
There was a slight hesitation. Yes.
Oh, well, I'm gaining confidence now.
And as it's debatable whether there's a hesitation or not, David, what I'll do is, because you actually can't win, but you can do very well... But you can finish in a flourish, because there's only 4 seconds to go, and you have soap starting now.
I don't think soap is a very interesting thing at all. In fact, you can buy...
So it only remains for me to give you the final situation at the end of this one. Well, David Mitchell, who's not played the game before, actually did extremely well. Finished in 4th place, but it was a very powerful 4th place. And he was only 2 points behind Sheila Hancock, who hasn't played the game for a very long time. She was 2 points behind Paul Merton, who's played the game many times. But 1 point ahead of him was Clement Freud. So we say, Clement, you'll be delighted to know you're the winner this week. We do hope you've enjoyed this edition of Just a Minute. It remains me to say thank you to these 4 fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Clement Freud, David Mitchell and Sheila Hancock. I thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle magnificently. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. We're very indebted to our lovely producer, Claire Jones. We're very grateful to this audience here at the Radio Theatre who've cheered us on our way. Tune in the next time we all play Just a Minute! Yay! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners in this country and throughout the world. But to welcome to this program 4 exciting, talented, humorous individuals who are going to show their skill with words, their verbal dexterity and ingenuity as they try and speak on the subject that I give them, and they do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And those 4 are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Clement Freud, and seated on my left, Josie Lawrence and Jack D. Would you please welcome all 4 of them? Thank you. Seated beside me is Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me keep the score, and she'll blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Radio Theatre and Broadcasting House in Portland Place, West 1. We'll get straight on with the show. And, Jack, you haven't played it so often, but now we're going to ask you to begin the programme. And the subject we've got here for you is, what gets my back up? What gets my back up, Jack? 60 seconds starting now.
I'm a very easy-going kind of guy, but one of the things that really gets my back up is when people don't apologise when they've clearly done something very badly wrong. I bought a television just before last Christmas, and when I switched it on, I found that the picture was upside down. Well, I rang the shop and explained the problem, and they said to me that that doesn't sound right. I said, no, it actually does sound right, it just doesn't look right.
Josie, challenge.
It's 2 rights, I'm afraid.
And 2 sounds, yes. But well listened, Josie, but
Yeah.
it was a good story.
It was a good story.
It was true as well.
Was it an Australian TV?
Yeah.
Josie.
What is it?
I'm going to tell you in a moment, darling. It's what gets my back up. But you have a correct challenge, so you get a point for that. You take over the subject, and there are 34 seconds. What gets my back up starting now?
What gets my back up in the morning is my spine. Without it, I'd be all floppy. What really gets my back up is people with no senses of humour. People who are cynical. I just...
Jack, challenge.
People.
Yes.
Yes, there's 2 people, sir.
Repeating
Yes.
people.
That's right. Well, listen, Jack, you have the subject back with you. 23 seconds available. What gets my back up starting now?
What gets my back up is people who...
Paul, challenge.
You had people before, I think.
Yes, you did. You talked about...
Did I say it before?
Yes, you did.
Fair enough,
when you were
then.
talking before.
No, it's correct challenge.
Trouble is that once you've said it before, even if you come back in, you can't repeat the word again.
That constitutes a repetition, I see. Yes, thank you.
Paul, you've got in the 20 seconds on what gets my back up, starting now.
Osteopathy.
Clement, you challenge.
Hesitation.
It was a hesitation.
And he didn't mention people.
But he... No, he deliberately paused to get the laugh. It was such a good one, I'm going to give him a bonus point for that. But you get a point for a correct challenge. You get the subject, and you have 18 seconds on what gets my back up, starting now.
The concept that there are particular things that cause this or that to one's body is not a subscription I would adhere to. That's a pretty clumsy sentence, if I ever heard one. What gets my...
Challenge.
Well, that's become a deviation, hasn't it?
I think it's deviation from English as we understand it.
I thought it was rigorous self-analysis.
I think he was almost admitting it himself. So, Jack, benefit of the doubt, and 5 seconds still available. What gets my back up, starting now?
There are very few things that really annoy me to the extent...
And And what's the situation at the end of the round? Well, Jack is now in the lead. Josie, you're training them all a little.
I know.
But here's a subject which is close to your heart, because I know you've been there. Yes, I know you've been there. This is why we put it in for you. Mount Kilimanjaro.
Oh.
You've climbed it, haven't you?
Yes, and I could have said that and made us some time up, couldn't I?
No, you can repeat it, darling.
All right,
I
then.
have said it. You can say it, repeat it that. You say that. Right, ready? 60
Yes.
seconds. Count Mount Kilimanjaro starting now.
Mount Kilimanjaro is the highest freestanding mountain in Africa, Tanzania, in fact. I know because I climbed to the very top of it. 5,895 meters. That's 19,000 feet. I've just said
Jack
1,000.
challenged.
It was a repetition of 5. Oh, yeah, the gloves are off.
I'm afraid 5 did come in twice in your description.
I wondered what a freestanding mountain was.
Because some of them are all... Some of
Are
them
leaning
are
against
sort
the
of
wall?
You know, you
yes,
can-
some of them are leaning against
Sometimes, you know,
things.
you get fitted mountains.
Oh, yes.
You get
These are a bit
bridges
more
of mountains.
casual.
Look, I did it and it nearly bloody killed me, so don't take the mick, all right?
You'll get back in again, darling. Don't worry.
That's what
Right,
they always
so,
say.
you have 46 seconds on Mount Kilimanjaro starting now.
I believe I'm right in saying that Mount Kilimanjaro was originally a volcano, and that therefore it's
Paul, tell us.
Hesitation.
There was a hesitation.
complete hesitation.
Yes. Tell us something about Mount Kilimanjaro, Paul, in 39 seconds starting now.
When I was unemployed, I climbed up Mount Kilimanjaro, and what a fantastic place it was. Full of people on housing benefit. You climb to the top.
Josie, you challenge.
No, he climbed twice.
He only climbed twice. It was impossible what he did.
Yes.
So you have 31 seconds on Mount Kilimanjaro starting now.
The worst thing about it is altitude sickness. You get to the volcanic area and you start to...
Clement challenge.
She said it was volcanic before.
I didn't, he did.
No, Jack said volcanic. He said it was a volcanic. Yes, he said
No, I didn't. It was Josie.
No, you lie.
No, he said it was originally a volcano. She's not mentioned the word before.
Yeah, never know.
And certainly not volcanic. The other one was a volcano. 24 seconds. Another point to you, Josie. And we're still with you on Mount Kilimanjaro starting now.
On the fourth day, I blew my nose and there was blood on the tissue. I felt terrible. My heart was beating. My head was aching. And the day of the ascent was the worst. We started at 10 o'clock at night in the darkness, put our head torches on, and began to walk up to Stella Point. But for every step up, you slide to...
Oh, I wanted to hear the rest.
Did you?
It's available as a booklet.
I was absolutely in the story, but you've challenged her.
Well, mine is pretty interesting as well. Repetition of up.
I know, but I was with her. I was going up and
Never
up, and I
mind.
wanted to go right to the top with you there.
Just, you see, it was affecting your breathing, wasn't it? It was affecting your breathing.
Yes, I was getting a bit breathless. Yes,
Yeah.
I was.
I can tell that.
Hypertension, what's it called?
Hyper supermarket.
No. Hyperventilating.
Hyperventilating, yeah.
That's right, yes. So, Clement, you have a correct challenge. You play by the rules of just a minute, and you have 4 seconds on Mount Kilimanjaro starting now.
Oddly enough, you can get very good telephone reception at the...
So Clement Freud within...
It's true.
Yes, I found.
You can mobile phone from the top.
I found when I was crying.
It was you.
Yeah,
who
I
phoned.
found you.
Clement was speaking as a whistleblower, gained an extra point. He's now in second place behind Jack D, and just ahead are Paul Merton and Josie Lawrence. And Jack, it's your turn to begin, and the subject is quite topical. You can take it many different ways, though. The crunch. Tell us something about the crunch, starting now.
The Crunch is the nickname given to our common...
Josie challenge.
Where do I begin?
The sense of ennui from the audience. I feel I've so disappointed people. When I get it wrong, don't go, oh. It's hard enough without feeling I've ruined your evening, all right? I got it wrong.
Josie, you got it right. You got the first challenge in, and you have 55 seconds. The crunch starting now.
I love the feel of the crunch in your mouth. I like crunchy things, not soft, floppy things. Remember not cracknel that you used a little hammer with to hammer it out? Oh.
Paul challenge.
Repetition of hammer.
Hammer, yes, but it's hammer it out. Yes, there's two hammers, that's right, yes.
Yes.
45 seconds, the crunch is with you, Paul, starting now.
If we look at the crunch, we take our mind back perhaps to 1929 and the beginning of the Great Crash. Then it was called a depression. Now we have to find other words which don't sound quite so depressing. We call it a credit crunch, or we say, as we used to do in the 1960s, there's a financial squeeze. But of course, we all realise now that this is why we're here in the radio theatre watching Just a Minute, because it's free. We don't have to pay anything to come in. We don't really care who are those people on stage. I wish they'd shut up and then turn the heating up. That'd be a boon, wouldn't it? I've come all the way from Chipping Norton to be here tonight. That's what we like about the British spirit. We will survive the crunch. We will look it in the eye. We say, you will never...
Clement, a chance.
That's 14 wheeze.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm incontinent.
We weren't enjoying it so much. Occasionally we let someone go on this flight of fantasy.
Yeah, I wanted him to go on for a bit, because it leaves less time.
You want to get another point, which you've got, and you've got 7 seconds on the crunch, starting now.
I, too, like Josie, had crunchy bars when I was at school, which I preferred to Mars, Milky Way.
Clement again, speaking as a whistle wins, again the extra point and increases lead, and it's also, Clement, your turn to begin. And the subject now, Eros. Tell us something about Eros in this game, starting now.
Love, lust, intercourse, the statue in Piccadilly Circus, Aphrodite.
All challenge.
The hesitation.
The definite hesitation.
There was like hesitation.
Right. Eros is with you, Paul. 53 seconds available, starting now.
Of course, it's soar backwards, but when we look at the statue of Eros there in the centre of Piccadilly Circus, remember that particular...
Clement challenge.
It's not in the centre of Piccadilly Circus.
Well, how would you describe it?
The side of Piccadilly Circus.
No, it's in the centre.
No.
They go right
You
round.
haven't been there lately.
It's been moved.
No, it's been pedestrianised, but it hasn't. Yes, it has been moved.
It was moved.
Moved.
Was it?
We still consider it to be the centre.
Trafalgar
don't we?
Square.
Consider it to be the
I
centre.
don't. It's been moved to the
How
side.
many people would think that Eros is in the centre of Piccadilly Circus? None of them. It's not in the centre, then. 46 seconds. Eros, with you, Clement, starting now.
I'm very pleased to talk about Eros in front of this knowledgeable audience who know where everything is anywhere. Fertility is what the son of Aphrodite, which I was going to mention, but I was interrupted by people who know nothing. He was, in fact, I'm talking about Eros, related to an awful lot of... Good challenge.
Repetition of related.
Related, yes. 21 seconds, Paul. Tell us something about Eros, starting now.
Eros is 45 feet away from the Criterion Theatre because it's been moved. Back in 1968, it was in the centre of the place that I mentioned earlier.
Josie challenge.
Said centre twice.
Well, listen, my love. You have Eros, and you have 12 seconds, starting now.
Eros is a very romantic place in Piccadilly. Lots of people go there and sit and spoon together. The thing about Eros is arrow is meant to be pointing at you, rather like...
Clement, Paul challenge.
Well, it's not really a place, is it? It's more of a statue.
Yes, but it's right in the centre.
No, it's not. It's moved. Look, it's not far from here. Who's got a tape measure? I don't mind.
I was speaking personally, and to me it's a place.
It's a place, and she established it was a place, and it is an area there, and which is still pedestrianised, and in the centre of that is Eros.
I agree.
Which is really what she was trying to say.
Yes.
And I agree with her.
Yes.
So I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt and say you've still got the subject. And you've got 1 second to go on Eros, starting now.
A lot of people think that...
So Josie Lawrence will then speak as the whistle when gain that extra point. Is equal in third place with Jack D. They're 1 point behind Paul Merton, and he's 3 behind Clement Freud in that order. And we move back to you, Josie, to begin. And the subject, I don't know whether this is your scene, but tell us something about it if you can. Boy bands. Oh, it is a toughie, isn't it? 60 seconds, starting now.
My favourite boy band recently, although we are going back a couple of decades, was Take That. I really like that particular boy band, especially the bit...
All challenge.
I'm sorry to say, but it's a repetition of that.
You said
the first that was with 2 T's. Oh, no, it has got 2 T's, hasn't it?
Can we have 2 teas and a plate of biscuits?
Yeah. You're quite right.
No. Paul, it was a correct challenge. 51 seconds. Boy bands starting now.
The concept of boy bands is nothing new. We can look back to Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons from the 1950s. In our own islands, we have the Beatles, who perhaps were the most successful of all boy bands. They started off as being a troupe of 4 individuals from Liverpool who released records.
Clement challenge.
A bit of a hesitation, no?
No, he was going with great aplomb.
Oh,
in comparison with you, he was actually motoring.
You can't compare him to me.
No hesitation. 37 seconds. Still with you, Paul. Boy bands.
I want him to win.
Boy bands is with you, Paul, starting now.
I remember back in the skiffle days, there was a wonderful group called Clement, Freud and the Zephyrs. And they had washboards and bass drums, and they fantastic hits of the day. Bill Haley and the Comets had nothing on them. Boy bands have been around for years. Because, like the Monkees, they can sometimes be manufactured, or in the case of the people that I mentioned earlier, they came together because they all grew up in the same sort of area.
Clement challenge.
Repetition of same.
Oh, yes, you did say the same group, same bands.
Yeah, oh, yes, yeah.
Yes. 14 seconds. You've got in at last, Clement, on boy bands. I know this is your subject. You're dying to speak on it. 14 seconds, starting now.
The French, who called Boy George Bois Georges, actually think...
Paul, challenge.
I don't know, is that a repetition of Boy George?
Yeah. It's a repetition of George.
Yeah.
No.
If you're putting in the French, it should be Garçon Georges. What did you say, then?
Boy George and Bois Georges.
It was the same word, slightly differently pronounced. If you want to change your accent midway through a sentence...
That's ridiculous. We can't play the game like that, can we, Nicholas?
No. 9 seconds for you, Paul, on boy bands, starting now.
If we look at Slade from the Black Country, they were a great boy band.
Susie
That
challenge.
was not a Black Country accent.
I didn't say it was. I didn't claim it was.
Yes, no, it's true. He didn't say it
He didn't claim it was.
No.
But he did say a black country, and he was trying to convey it was. And I'm going to give you, as you know that area, and you were brought up around there, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and say that you have a correct challenge with 5 seconds on boy bands starting now.
I don't mean to be mean, but boy bands are usually made up of 2 who can sing and 2...
Saved by the whistle, Josie. You were just about to say 2 again, weren't you, my love? No, you got in, you got the point for speaking as a whistle went, and where are you? You're in 3rd place, just behind Paul, just ahead of Jack, and you're all just a point or 2 behind Clement, who's in the lead. Paul, it's your turn to begin. The subject is now following your nose. There are 60 seconds, as usual, starting now.
As a piece of advice, I suppose, if you want to know that you're doing the right thing in life, following your instincts, maybe that's what it means, following your nose, getting something inside your head and believing that you might be able to follow this dream. Follow your...
Clement challenge.
You can't get your nose inside your head.
He's right, you can't.
You're absolutely right. So what is your challenge for the rules adjustment? Why?
It's biological.
Yes, but he wasn't talking biologically. He'd taken it as a phrase, follow your nose, which is a phrase of following your instincts. And
You can get your nose into somebody else's head.
Oh,
Apparently.
don't complicate it.
That's what happens in the Black
I think
Country.
actually... What was that, Jack? It was worth repeating.
Can we go now, then?
No, I think he deserves the benefit of the doubt, because he was speaking metaphorically and not literally about the nose and the head and wherever it was. So
metaphorically.
Not metaphorically. And so, if I can redress the balance later, Clement, of course I will. 46 seconds. Follow your nose with you, Paul, starting now.
I'm reminded about the person of restricted growth who was sacked from the nudist colony for poking his nose into other people's affairs. And if we look now in this day and age, we can see lots of people out in the streets of London who have followed their nose. They have come from other parts of this country and they've realised that if they want to make a name for themselves, then to come to the capital, just like Dick Whittington did all those centuries ago, to prove their character, forged in the steel of this massive city that we live in. Yes, I'm not afraid to stand up in front of you and say, I am a transsexual. I used to be a man.
Oh, that was a classic moment on Just a Minute. But Clement interrupted it. What did you challenge for, Clement?
Hesitation.
Well, that's rich, considering you paid for the operation.
He only hesitated because... When did you think he hesitated?
Well, you're almost running out of time to give me the benefit of the doubt.
You're quite right, Clement. And I think after having said transsexual, he did hesitate, actually. So I think we give Paul a bonus point for his contribution. Clement was right. He gets the benefit of the doubt. He has a point for a correct challenge. 11 seconds. At last you got in there on following your nose, Clement, starting now.
Following my nose is not at all difficult because it is lengthy and points in a particular direction, unlike many people's noses that are all over.
So Clement Freud, speakers of whistle, when gained that extra point. He's still one ahead of Paul Merton in that order, and then Josie Lawrence and Jack D. And Jack, we're back with you to begin. The subject is love at first sight. What a terrible expression to make of the sort of that subject. Anyway, it is a difficult one to talk on. 60 seconds, starting now.
Love at first sight is something that most people hold out huge hope for most of their lives, thinking that one day they'll meet someone and bingo, they will be stone in love with them, and that'll be that for the rest of their life. But it doesn't often happen like that. I've been happy.
Josie challenge.
Oh, he stumbled because
Yes.
I was remembering.
I'm your lovely wife.
Yeah.
Oh.
But it was a hesitation.
Yeah, it was a hesitation.
Right.
Get rid of him.
Josie, you have love at first sight. You have 43 seconds, starting now.
Some people say it's lust at first sight, but I do truly believe in love at first sight, although unfortunately for me it's always been unrequited. I saw a bloke a couple of years ago. He walked into the club and looked at me. I looked at him and smiled, but then I realised that he didn't think of me the way I thought of him because he was with another woman. And so I walked up to the bar and said, "Who is that man over there?" My heart was racing, I was sweating, I was falling in love with him. I went up to him and said, "Excuse me, would you get rid of that lady that you're with and come with me?" And he said, "No, go away, you ugly little horse raider." He called me up that. I don't know where horse raider came from. What is a horse raider?
That's what happens on Just a Minute. Things come out from nowhere. I mean, we have a transsexual over there, a horse raider on my left.
A horse raider.
My goodness me. So what
Could
was
it
your
have been because you were sweaty?
Yes, I was sweaty. Some men like sweaty.
Could I make a suggestion? Could it have been because you were watching the film which was reissued on television just recently called The Horse Whisperer?
I did.
There you are, you see. It was a connection, an unconscious connection.
Yes.
So why didn't you say horse whisperer?
Because the day before I'd watched Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Right, Paul, your challenge.
Hesitation.
There was a hesitation, right. So you have 3 seconds.
I'll try and make them as short as I can.
Those are the rules of the game. Love at first sight, Paul, starting now.
There she was, Eileen Jacobs, standing.
Thank you. So Paul Merton was speaking as a whistle. Wayne gained that extra point. He's now gone 1 ahead of Clement Freud and closely followed by Josie Lawrence and Jack D. And we're moving into the final round. I would like to know what's her name, Jacobs?
Eileen Jacobs.
Yeah, you mentioned her 3 or 4 times in Just a Minute over the years.
Yeah, it's funny, that, isn't it?
Well, it gets a laugh, but I wondered if she did mean something.
No, it's just a funny name.
Just another transsexual friend of his.
That's what my other passport says.
Right. Clement, it's your turn to begin. The subject is binge drinking. 60 seconds, starting now.
Is a close relative of Bing Crosby.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, yes. Well, it was a good line. Give him a bonus point for his Bing Crosby joke. 47 seconds, Paul, on binge drinking, starting now.
Drinking binge is one of my favourite hobbies. I love it. I get round the back of the bins, round the hotels, and I start knocking it back. Binge drinking, of course, they say is very bad for you. You should know that when you've had one drink, you shouldn't follow it immediately up with another. If you look perhaps at an example of somebody out in the street, somebody you see... Oh, it's somebody.
Josie Town.
Two somebodies.
Yes, well done, Josie. Listen well. 30 seconds available. You tell us something about binge drinking, starting now.
Do you know, I was watching the television the other night and there was something on one of the channels, I probably can't say the title, but it was about these people that go out on a Friday and a Saturday and just drink. Binge.
Jack, challenge.
Deviation.
What?
Because you were watching The Horse Whisperer.
I've not seen the show The Horse Whisperer. It's about somebody with a sore throat.
It's a brilliant film with Paul Redford.
Paul Redford?
No, Robert Redford.
I mean, Robert.
They're both in it.
I get Paul Newman, Robert Redford.
The Redford brothers are in it, are they?
Yeah. Yes. Sorry, I was getting confused there. Yeah, it's a great film. Great film.
I sometimes wake up in the morning feeling a little hoarse. Being a transsexual, yes. Yeah. As my sponsor kindly points out.
Who challenged you then?
I challenged Joseph.
Jack said I was watching The Horse Whisperer.
That's right. Yeah. Well, Jack, we'll give you a bonus point because we enjoyed your interruption. But Josie gets the point because she was interrupted because it was an incorrect challenge. And she keeps talking about binge drinking if she can. The 18 seconds starting now.
These lads went into this club and ordered 20 shots of vodka each, downed them, went to another place, and then got a bottle of white...
Jack challenged.
I think that was a hesitation.
There was a hesitation, Jack, yes.
Only a tiny one, and I can speak, you know, or rather I can't.
You try after... You try after 20 vodkas.
Yeah.
Right, 9 seconds are still available, Jack. Binge drinking starting now.
Binge drinking is the thing that the government have tried to clamp down on, just another way of spoiling all our fun. Because most of us, let's face it, rather enjoy drinking too much.
So, Jack D brought that show to an end, which... He brought it to an end in great style, and he finished up in a magnificent 4th place, but he's only... No, it's a contribution. It's not the points. He was only 2 points behind Josie Lawrence, who did a wonderful job. The two of them haven't played as much as the other two, yeah? And Clement Freud did incredibly well, and so did Paul Merton. And they finished... and they both got the same number of points, so we say joint winners. So it only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 fine, intrepid players of the game, Paul Merton, Clement Freud, Josie Lawrence and Jack D. I thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle so delicately when the 60 seconds elapsed. We thank Claire Jones, our producer. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're grateful to this lovely audience in the Radio Theatre here, who've cheered us on our way with great style from our audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team here. Goodbye, and tune in the next time we play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners in this country and around the world, but also to welcome to the program this week 4 talented, humorous, clever individuals who are going to display their verbal ingenuity, their cleverness with words, with language and humour as they try and speak on the subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition or deviation. And those four bright individuals are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Clement Freud, and seated on my left, Sheila Hancock and David Mitchell. Would you please welcome all four of them? And seated beside me is Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me keep the score, run the stopwatch, and blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Radio Theatre in the heart of Broadcasting House. And we have a really hearty audience here. So we're going to begin the show this week with Sheila Hancock. Sheila, the subject we've got here is agony aunts. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I've always been very suspicious of this idea of agony aunts. I actually think it's an office full of people, not one person, because they couldn't possibly deal with all those different subjects. I also enjoy Pamela Stevenson's agony
David, you challenge.
Well, I think it's slipped into a language I don't speak.
Yeah. It's called just
hesitation.
Hesitation.
That's right. Yes, it was hesitation. David, you have a correct challenge, and the subject is agony aunts. You have 42 seconds starting now.
I don't have any aunts, as my parents are both only children, so I have never known the...
Paul challenge.
Both your parents are children?
Only children.
They're only children?
No, they're only...
But they never grew up? It seems very harsh judgment. They may not have had your education, but there's no need to talk to them like that.
It's a lovely thought, Paul, but he was conveying that they were only... What did you say?
Well, I was saying that...
They were only children. If somebody doesn't have any brothers or sisters, they're called only children.
Yes.
Could be called orphans.
Yes.
I think that's another subject altogether.
They could be called orphans if they were also orphans. Or if their name was Orphans. Morning, Orphans. Morning. Alphonse and Orphans. Two brothers.
So, Paul, we did enjoy your interruption, so we give you a bonus point for that one. But, David, you were interrupted, so you get a point for that.
Thank you.
And you take over the subject of agony aunts, and there are 36 seconds starting now.
No aunts ever came to my Christmases and caused agony by being snarky about the way...
Paul challenge.
Snarky?
Yes, snarky.
It's, You say yes, snarky?
No, I just said snarky, yes.
Yeah.
It's a lovely word. No, I think you can create words. I mean,
okay.
Edward Lear was always creating lovely new words.
Yes.
And so did Lewis Carroll.
Yes.
And I think David Mitchell's entitled to do the same thing.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Of the snarky.
Yeah, hunting of the snarky.
And,
we're allowed to make up words now. That's good news, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's going to save a lot of trouble later on, I'll tell you that. I'm writing a few down now.
You've heard of Lewis Carroll? You've heard of the hunting of the snark?
I've heard of it. I live it. It's a daily struggle as far as I'm concerned. Just getting down to the shops.
If Lewis Carroll can tell us about the hunting of the snark, then David can take that word and call it snarky.
OK, fair enough.
And so you have an incorrect challenge again, David. And you have 30 seconds to continue with agony aunts starting now.
The other thing that agony aunts means is those people who write for newspapers and try and give advice. I have sent letters many times to these people asking about how to put up shelves or...
Paul
Did
challenge.
you have people before?
Yes, you did.
It's such a useful word.
I know, it's such a... You did say it
Should
before.
have said snarks or something.
Paul, a correct challenge, 19 seconds, agony aunts, starting now.
There were no agony aunts in Snarky and Hutch, but what a television show that was. Two cops battling their way through American cities. They needed agony aunts to advise them. Yes, they did. Claire Rayner, she was the chief one. She'd come onto the set and she'd say, listen, if you're going to get somebody's fingerprints in a pool alley, what you've got to do is put them up against the wall, shove your hand right up between their arms.
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point, and on this occasion it was Paul Merton who had 3 points at the end of the round, and David Mitchell also has 3 points. They're both equal in the lead. Clement Freud and Sheila Hancock have yet to speak, and Clement, we'd like you to begin the next round. And the subject is after dinner speaking, 60 seconds starting now.
Let me begin by saying that I'm still available. And very recently, like last Tuesday, I made an afternoon speech. I will repeat it now. Emperor, I said, Your Majesty, Royal Highnesses, Dukes, earls, marquises.
David, you've challenged.
A slight hesitation
Slight
between
hesitation.
various dignitaries. Maybe just to accord them a sufficient level of respect.
I get lousy audiences like that at my after-dinner speeches every now and again.
Well, and that may be the pace at which you take your after-dinner speeches, but you were definitely pausing according to the rules of just a minute, Clement.
Really?
Yes. So, David, you have a correct challenge.
Thank you.
And you have... And you have after-dinner speaking, 44 seconds, starting now.
After dinner, speaking is difficult because of the amount of wine I have drunk. But nevertheless, I do my best and try not to be sick on the tablecloth or say offensive things to ladies present. So I suppose the greatest skill in after-dinner speaking, if you do it professionally, like Clement or Gyles Brandreth, or the kind of...
Clement challenge.
2 oars.
There are too many oars there.
Oh.
So 25 seconds available for you after a correct challenge, Clement. After dinner speaking starting now.
Not forgetting the bride's mother. That's always...
Another... Sheila, Hancock?
Was that a hesitation?
That was a hesitation, yes.
Yeah.
He waited for the laugh, it didn't come.
I didn't wait.
And so it was a hesitation. Sheila, you have a correct challenge. After dinner speaking, 21 seconds starting now.
I loathe listening to after-dinner speeches. They're usually rude or boring, and I feel sick when I have to make one myself, although I did once get an award as the best after-dinner speaker of the year. Mind you, that award is...
yes. Paul challenge.
Competition of awards.
Yes.
Sadly, much deserved, I'm sure.
Yes. Paul, you've got the subject. You have 6 seconds available. After dinner speaking, starting now.
The secret of a good after-dinner speech is to look your audience firmly in the eye and start fighting.
Right. Well, Paul Merton was again, speaking as the whistle went, getting that extra point. He's just ahead of David Mitchell, then come Clement, Freud and Sheila Hancock in that order. David, we'd like you to start the next round. It's what I admire about the Romans. I don't know whether it's your subject or your era, but tell us something about it in this game, starting now.
What I admire about the Romans is how they managed to live in that very old city where other Romans lived many years earlier, and they try and make it easy for themselves by digging a tube network. But as soon as they got 2 railway lines underground done, international authorities, say from the United Nations, said, "You must stop doing that. You're drilling through the foundations of many temples and destroying thousands of ancient and precious pots. We can't have you continuing to do that."
Sheila, challenge.
Did he repeat continuing?
No, so an incorrect challenge.
Yeah, you got an
And
extra
David,
point.
you've still got the Romans, or what I admire about the Romans. 34 seconds, starting now.
And the Council of Rome replied, "Don't you understand? We're trying to get to work. We need to live in this place."
Clement challenge.
Repetition of we.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
You can see the response that got, Clement.
Yeah.
27 seconds with you, Clement. What I admire about the Romans, starting now.
Polanski and Abramovich are the 2 Romans whom I know reasonably. And what Roman does so extremely nicely is direct films, though not in America, where he has been summoned and convicted of a crime which disallows him from continuing to work in California and New York, which are mainly the 2.
So Clement Freud was then Speaker of the Whistle and gained that extra point. He's now moved into 3rd place, 2 points behind David Mitchell and Paul Merton, who are in the lead equal. Sheila's trailing a little. Paul, it's your turn to begin, and the subject we've got now is digital radio. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Well, in many ways, it's a marvellous invention, digital radio. I particularly enjoy listening to the bees...
David, you challenge.
He lost the will to live, I think.
So, David, you have a correct challenge. Digital radio, 53 seconds, starting now.
Digital radio is something that we're supposed to be more interested in than, in fact, we are, because all it does is deliver the same thing we're used to, radio content, but a different way. And I don't see why that's so very fascinating. When the Postal Service moved over from horse and cart to vehicles with internal combustion engines, I don't think people were expected to be fascinated by the changeover, but because it helps to sustain companies like Currys and Dixons by making us replace perfectly usable radio sets in our houses, we're supposed to be interested and keen to involve ourselves. Thank you so much. No, I thank the audience for their sympathy, but I was dying there.
You weren't. You were going magnificently, but you were going at such a pace, you got no breath left.
Yeah.
And so, Paul, you challenged.
There was a bit of a hesitation there, I thought.
No, I don't think so.
No?
I mean, he was really trying to struggle to get the words out.
It was the thoughts I was struggling to get out, I think, rather than the words. But,
David, 20 seconds for you to continue on digital radio starting now.
I don't see why tuning in through a different form of technology is important as far as a change in the system by which we hear voices that are coming from a long way away. The important breakthrough...
Well, there was a hesitation there.
Yeah, it was, because he just didn't know where he was going.
There
really,
was, yeah.
We interpret that as hesitation. So, Paul, you got him with 9 seconds to go on digital radio starting now.
Some music doesn't sound too good on digital radio. It's something to do with how they can...
Clement challenge.
He said some and something, and I buzzed before he got the thing out.
I didn't know it was going to be that sort of party.
So, an incorrect challenge. Paul, you've still got digital radio and 5 seconds to go, starting now.
Beethoven's Fifth Symphony heard on digital radio.
So, Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. He's now taking the lead, 1 ahead of David Mitchell and Sheila Hancock. It's your turn to begin. The subject is my ego. Can you tell us something about that in this game, starting now?
I had a mouse called Ego because I saw him in the lounge and I said, there he goes, to my friend who shared the flat with me, and therefore I called him my Ego. He was grey and he had whiskers and little brown eyes, and he went like that, and I got quite fond of him, really, and fed him with cheese and butter and chocolate, because mice like chocolate very much.
Oh, yes. Clement, you challenged.
Yes.
Chocolate.
Yes. Too much chocolate you gave him. Clement, you've got in on my ego, and there are 32 seconds starting now.
The word ego is often pronounced ego, which I actually prefer. The Ego and the Id, a book for which I get royalties, written by my brother, is an extremely interesting volume which I would urge everyone to purchase.
Sheila Hancock challenged.
It's not extremely interesting. It's one of the most boring books I've ever read in my life. Deviation.
Well, it's a difficult one. I mean, he thinks that everybody thinks it's interesting. I mean, if you all write something, you like to think that. It's a very difficult one for me to make a decision
All
on.
right, let him have it.
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
No, I want more than that.
All right. So, Clement, we give you an incorrect challenge and 15 seconds. My ego starting now.
Egomania is a word which flourishes in our family.
David challenge.
There's a little hesitation.
Yes.
Look, I have a pause between words. And I've been doing this for some 60 years.
But I must say...
And for someone who's only been here for 10 minutes. OK, 5 minutes.
But sometimes, Clement, your pauses between words get longer and longer, and we interpret that as hesitation.
I hesitated.
So you have a correct challenge, David. You have my ego, and you have 10 seconds starting now.
My ego is something that troubles me very much because I'm afraid of going...
Clement challenge.
Deviation.
Why?
From hesitation. He was speaking rather quickly. There was hardly a pause between...
He always speaks rather quickly, and it's very clever to speak quickly in just a minute and keep going and not hesitate, which is exactly what David was doing. So he has an incorrect challenge. Another point, David. At this rate, you're going to win, you know, with the help of 10 points. 6 seconds to go, starting now.
My fear is that my ego will lead me to try and take over the world. And the people who I would...
So David Mitchell was then speaking as the whistle went and gained that extra point, and he has moved forward. He's now in the lead, ahead of Paul Merton. Right. There you are. It's all paying off. I don't know how many in the audience you bribe, but there's really loving it. Clement, it's your turn to begin. The subject is in the stocks. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
In medieval times, the stocks was a place where people were tied or fastened for public humiliation or torture or painful
Sheila, challenge.
Repetition of awe.
Yes. 49 seconds for you, Sheila, on In the Stocks, starting now.
At some village fetes nowadays, they put people in the stocks and throw wet sponges at them, usually the unfortunate vicar. And I think it's vicious. I've seen some really nasty scenes on village greens in the stocks. Amongst my stocks in the garden, I have a few little violets and daisies in the socks. In the socks.
Paul, you challenge.
Sort of hesitation, deviation.
Deviation on the
deviation.
stocks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Several good goes at it, though.
26 seconds for you, Paul, on In the Stocks, starting now.
Being in the stocks, I remember as being a rather humiliating experience. The year was 1685. I said something naughty.
David, challenge.
Is there a repetition of being?
Yeah, it was.
Yes, it was indeed. Well,
Very
listen,
early on.
David, yes. Yeah. You're getting the hang of this game now, aren't you? 19 seconds available. You take back the subject, David. In the Stocks, starting now.
In the stocks is a place you don't want to find yourself being. And in fact, in the village fetes where people are put in the stocks like vicars nowadays and have sponges thrown at them, I think it's incredibly offensive that that is a reference to a very unpleasant form of medieval torture. And those medieval ghosts...
Oh, Paul, challenge, yes.
Sadly, repetition of medieval.
Yes.
It's a tiny little word you need in most sentences, though.
But it represents quite a big period of history.
Yeah.
Paul, you've cleverly got in with 2 seconds to go. In the Stocks, starting now.
So I thought I'd give succour to the people who were disappointed that I won that last particular challenge.
Yeah, but that's all wrong, because those are the rules of the game, and you played it before. Anyway, you were challenged by Clement Freud.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, right. Clement, 1 second to go on In the Stocks, starting now.
Custard charge.
So Clement Freud was then Speaker of the Whistle when moved forward. He's still in third place, ahead of Sheila Hancock, but trailing Paul Merton and David Mitchell. David's 1 point ahead of Paul. And Paul, it's back with you to begin, and the subject now is bugs. Tell us something about bugs in this game, starting now.
In the spy stories of the 1960s, I'm thinking of James Bond and perhaps even the books of Len Dayton, who wrote a series of novels featuring a spy's adventures. I had to do the plural of spy, because I only said spy.
Spy. No, right. David, you challenge first.
I thought there was a little gap after
There was a
spies.
hesitation, yes. You're getting the hang of this game very well now. 50 seconds available for you to take over the subject of bugs, starting now.
There are a lot of bugs around at the moment, and not the sort of flying beetle or other insect that we mean when we talk about bugs in the jungle, but viruses that seem to thrive in cold conditions and make people feel ill and unpleasant in a way that doctors just say, well, that's some bug. There's nothing I can do about that. Just go away and be miserable or play in the snow or something similar to that. But I feel that bugs in other countries are more of a problem because they can burrow into the skin and lay eggs and make your elbow explode with thousands of tiny spiders coming out, attacking you through the eyes and eating your...
Clement challenge.
Repetition of lots. This was right at the beginning.
Lots of things,
Yes,
lots of things exploding.
I want him to go on for a bit because
Eat up time.
I didn't want to do it.
That's wicked. Let them do all the hard work and then come in towards the end.
Last minute.
13 seconds, Clement, with you on bugs, starting now.
I don't really know a lot about bugs, except they creep and crawl about kitchens, bathrooms, lavatories, almost anywhere in a house. Look down and you will see a bug. Don't talk to them, but...
So at the end of that round, Clement Freud, Speaker of the Whistle, went. He's moved forward. He's now just 2 behind Paul Merton. He's about 5 behind David Mitchell, who's in the lead still, and Sheila Hancock's bringing up the 4th place very valiantly. And Sheila, it's all your turn to begin. So would you take this subject now? The language I would most like to speak. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Well, off the top of my head, the language that I would most like to speak is cat talk. I have inherited from my daughter a very odd pussy who makes strange noises. As I go up the stairs, he goes, "Arrah!" and as though he is saying things to me that I don't quite understand. And I think they might be important because he is obviously distressed sometimes and he makes a low noise at me. And when I come home, like after this show, I'll go and he'll be sitting on the step and he will be going, "Ow!" like that at me. I wish I could answer him back. I make the same sound as him, but he doesn't like that at all. He puts his head down and his tail up, and then he goes like that. Not...
Paul challenged.
Oh, it's a repetition of he. There was quite a few
There's a lot of he's, yes, there were. But it was
yes.
lovely stuff. Fantastic. We enjoyed it. We were really in your life there,
Not
Sheila.
really about language, but never mind.
Paul, you've gone in with the correct challenge on the language I would most like to speak. 12 seconds available, starting now.
I suppose I would like to speak French, but at school it wasn't an option. Seriously, I had to do metalwork instead, which struck me as a rather peculiar choice. I cannot speak to people in France, but I can make a very bad trowel.
So, Paul Merton was speaking as a whistle, getting that extra point. He's now 1 point behind our leader, David Mitchell. And they're both a few points ahead of Clement, Freud and Sheila Hancock in that order. David Mitchell, it's your turn to begin. Oh, a lovely one. You've had some of these in this show. But this one, the subject is a purple patch. Talk about a purple patch in this game, starting now.
A purple patch is what I get on my shirt whenever I drink red wine or Ribena. And it embarrasses me and makes me feel that I'm not a proper human and shouldn't go to meetings and won't be taken seriously. And people say, I bet he's no good at home cooking. And in general, isn't a professional man about town like I wish I came across. A purple patch also refers to a period of creativity that's particularly intense and impressive. You're a writer, your purple patch would be when you wrote thousands and thousands of words in a day.
Oh, Clement challenged.
Thousands and thousands and
yes,
thousands of words. Most of them the word thousand.
And you went for 30 seconds at a tremendous pace. Well done, David. But Clement spotted the thousands. He pressed first. 30 seconds to go, Clement, on a purple patch, starting now.
If you have a lot of bugs in your kitchen or bathroom or laboratory or anywhere else, and you get a carpet beater and smash them, you are likely to end up with a purple patch, which actually comes out of the carpets.
Well, it was a hesitation after the most beautifully pronounced carpets I've ever heard in my life. But it was a hesitation after that.
It was a hesitation as he went into the S. Right. Oh, the expression on his face was worth it. 12 seconds with you, Paul, on a purple patch, starting now.
Charlie Chaplin's film career from 1916 to 1917 is...
David challenge.
Repetition of 19.
1916. Well, listen, David, you have 8 seconds. You've got back a purple patch, and you have 8 seconds starting now.
Charlie Chaplin's film career from 1916 to the mid-20s was perhaps the most creative period that he enjoyed.
So I've just been told we are moving into the final round. This will be it coming up. But before I do, I'm sure you'd like to know the situation. Sheila Hancock, who hasn't played the game for a long time, but does give great value. I mean, she goes for ages, my darling, and then somebody interrupts her. We have all that cat language, which was brilliant. And in second place is Clement Freud. He's a few points behind David Mitchell, who's only 1 point behind Paul Merton, who's in the lead as we go into the final round. Paul, it's your turn to start, and the subject now is my favourite joke. You have 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
A man goes into a restaurant and he orders a bowl of soup, and the waiter comes over and he's got the bind... Oh, no, I can't... You've got to repeat it. You've got to repeat it.
I know you have. David, you challenge first. Hesitation, we call it. 53 seconds. My favourite joke, starting now.
My favourite joke is Boris Johnson. And I think that what's particularly hilarious about him is how he has managed to garner quite a lot of power, and soon we will see his malevolent intent. Although, actually, the more serious and powerful he becomes, the less funny I find him. And so, increasingly, what becomes my favourite joke is...
Paul challenge.
Repetition of becomes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Comes before, right. Yes, Paul, well, listen, you've got back in on my favourite joke. 31 seconds, starting now.
Another favourite joke of...
Clement Freud challenge.
No, the subject was my favourite joke, not another favourite joke.
Oh, I think you're being a bit pedantic. My favourite joke can be taken in many different ways.
But not as one of my favourite jokes. The subject was my favourite joke.
I think he's right.
All right, Clement, you win the argument. Benefit of the doubt. 30 seconds. My favourite joke starting now.
My favourite joke is of an Englishman, Scot, Irish. It amused...
Don't they do anything?
I don't know why you did it, because Scotsman and Irishman are one word, anyway.
It amused me.
But strangely enough, Clement, our principal purpose is to amuse the audience.
Don't tell them that. Don't tell them that.
Oh, no, right. So, Paul, you challenged first.
Well, it was
right.
hesitation,
Yes, right.
wasn't it?
And you've got my favourite joke, 23 seconds, starting now.
2 flies are playing football in a saucer. One says to the other, practice. He says, why? He says, next week we're in the cup. Now, I heard that when I was 7 years old, and then it was my favourite joke. I thought that was hilarious for a while. I certainly did. I would tell the other kids in school, have you heard the one about? And then I would relate the story, and they thought it was absolutely hilarious.
So Paul Merton brought the show to end with a flourish there. Let me give you the final situation. Sheila Hancock, who gives tremendous value. She's so modest. You did trail the others a little in this game. But we loved your contribution, darling, and that's why you're here. Then came Clement Freud with quite a lot of points there, and we always enjoy his contribution. And then David Mitchell, who's only played the game once before, looked as if he could be the winner at one time, but he did fantastically, finishing in second place, but he was 3 points behind Paul Merton, who is this week our winner. So it only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 fine, funny players of the game: Paul Merton, Clement Freud, David Mitchell, and Sheila Hancock. I thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle greatly. We thank our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're indebted to this lovely audience here, who've cheered us on our way magnificent. And we leave with happy memories. I hope you will do the same. From our audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and our panel, goodbye. But tune in the next time we play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners in this country and throughout the world. But to welcome to the programme 4 exciting, talented, witty, clever individuals who are going to show their skill with words, their verbal dexterity and ingenuity, as they try and speak on a subject that I give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And those 4 are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Chris Neill, and seated on my left, Tony Hawks and Justin Moorhouse. Will you please welcome all 4 of them? Seated beside me is Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me keep the score, and she'll blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Performing Arts Centre here at the University of Lincoln, that fine university in that delightful county of Lincolnshire. And we have a fine Lincolnshire audience here. Scattered amongst them are some students from this university who are ready to enjoy themselves as we start the show with Justin, and the subject is sneezing. You have 60 seconds starting now.
When I was a young child, on our local news in Manchester, there was a report of a lady who sneezed constantly. Sneezed, sneezed,
It's a wicked game, isn't it? Tony, you challenge first.
Yeah, well, you see, he's allowed to repeat sneezing, isn't he? Because that's on the card, but not sneeze.
That's right.
So,
53 seconds available for you, Tony, on sneezing, starting now.
About a decade ago, I hitchhiked round Ireland with a fridge and got a lift with a nut.
Justin, challenge.
Deviation.
It's not. It's true. We did.
Oh.
And he wrote a book about it.
I know, I've read it.
So why did you challenge?
Because there was no sneezing in that book.
There was. I'm going to come to that.
He was building up to it. So, Tony, an incorrect challenge.
I'm sorry. Do you have to say? You don't have to say sorry, do you?
Yes, you do, actually.
No. We just love you.
It's always best.
Well, I am sorry. So if that doesn't make it into the program,
No, don't say you're sorry.
Justin,
we love hearing from you. Don't say you're sorry. Your interruptions are delightful.
He's sorry, just accept it.
Chris, will you stop interfering? 48 seconds, Tony, with you on sneezing starting now.
And a nun gave me a lift. Well, I sneezed, and she said...
Paul, challenge.
Well, this is bad enough. You're travelling around with a fridge, and now a nun's giving you a lift. I mean, how many items are you going to carry around? So it's a bad joke. I'll drop it. That's no, doesn't matter. You see where I was going? She gave him a lift. You know, pressed the fourth floor and all that. Got a picture of a nun carrying a lift. That's what I had in mind. There's no reason why the rest... Hello, who are you?
He looked at me and said, hello, who are you? I'm Nicholas Parsons, and I'm trying to run this show.
Oh, hang on, I'll write that down. That's worth knowing. That's worth knowing, that is. I'm glad to see there is some sort of power behind the throne going on. It's wonderful.
No, I let the power go every so often because we get wonderful, surreal interruptions like that one, Paul, and we give you a bonus point for it because we enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you very much.
But those who read the book will know that he's speaking the truth. Tony, you've still got the subject. You have another point, of course. 43 seconds sneezing starting now.
And after I'd done my sneezing before this woman of the convent, she said, bless you. And I thought, how nice to hear that from someone who's fully qualified. And the journey went on, but there's a good book you can read about that. Anyway, I was sneezing only the other day, and somebody came up to me and said, would you mind stopping that, please? It's disturbing me. I'm trying to read. I'm on the tube. I thought, how unreasonable.
Justin, challenge.
Repetition of read.
I'd say sorry now.
He said, it's a good book, you can read it, and then later on he said, I was trying to read.
No, I said it was a good book and you can read it.
As well.
I don't know you. Say it as much as you like. It's good for me, generally.
Justin, you're trying so hard. I'm sure you got it right. You have the subject. 23 seconds with you, Justin Moorhouse. Sneezing starting now.
The whole point of me telling you about the news story that I saw where the...
Chris, challenge.
Repetition of news.
Chris, you have a correct challenge, and you have 20 seconds. Sneezing starting now.
They say that when America sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold, and that is indeed what has happened to our dreary, poor economy at the...
Justin, challenge.
Deviation. No one wants to hear about that.
I am sorry for that.
I agree. Nobody wants to hear about it, but it doesn't do any harm to be reminded. And what we'll do, out of generosity, I'll give you a bonus point because we enjoyed the interruption, Justin. But you weren't deviating or doing anything wrong within just a minute. So, Chris.
Yes.
Right. You have a subject. 10 seconds. Sneezing starting now.
There is nothing more intimidating than standing on a stage and feeling that little...
Hesitation.
There was a hesitation, so we're going to hear from everybody on this subject. 5 seconds are still available, Paul. Sneezing starting now.
As we each sneeze, we involuntarily close our eyes. There's nothing we can do there. It's an inbuilt reflex action.
So Paul Merton was speaking as the whistle went and gained that extra point, and they're all pretty equal at the...
What, even me?
Yes, even you. You're only 1 point behind all the other three.
That's pretty equal.
It's early days, Chris, don't worry. Chris, it's your turn to begin, so will you start with the subject of tripe? I know you cook, so probably it's been chosen for you. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Tripe is a dish made from an animal's stomach. You could use a pig, a lamb, mutton, goat. It's you.
Justin, challenge.
Mutton isn't an animal.
No, you're right. Well, it is it's an older sheep.
It's an older sheep, is mutton. The older sheep are called mutton. But young sheep are called lamb.
Yeah.
But you don't say, oh, look at that mutton there. You say, look at that sheep.
That's when...
If a pig walks in, you go, oh, look at that bacon.
But if you're in a butcher shop, you would say, look at that mutton, look at that tripe, look at that lamb.
I wouldn't, because I'm a vegetarian.
You have an answer for everything, which is lovely.
Sorry.
We enjoyed your interruption. We give you a bonus point for what you said.
Say sorry now.
We don't apologise in this game, Chris.
Okay.
You have a point for incorrect challenge, so you benefit from that, and you keep the subject. 53 seconds, tripe, starting now.
Most of the tripe that is eaten is from the cow's stomach, or indeed one of that creature's 4 stomachs.
Paul,
You
challenge.
have a repetition of stomach before.
stomach.
Yes, you had the
Yes,
stomach
yeah.
before, yes. So, Paul, you have the subject of tripe, and you have 46 seconds, if you can, starting now.
I worked at Sainsbury's when I was 13 years old in the meat department. One of the things you had to do was to go into this great big vat of tripe with a plastic spade and pick it up and put it into a bowl and then wrap it up. And it's the most disgusting thing, because once it gets into your fingers, then it goes into your hair, and before you know where you are, you've covered your entire body in tripe. And you're walking down Lincoln High Street saying, "Take me, I'm yours!" And this is why we find today that a lot of people are buying tripe to bake out the basic meaty substances that they normally have. It's a cheap substance, it tastes horrible, but if you cook it and prepare it in exactly the right way, then it still will be disgusting but hot. And that's...
Tony, you challenged one.
I did very well, but there was, unfortunately, a repetition of disgusting.
Yes, there was.
Right at the end, he nearly did it.
We loved it all, but unfortunately you left 10 seconds, which you couldn't complete. So Tony's got it, and as tripe is with you, Tony, starting now.
Some people might say that they hear a lot of tripe when they listen to this show, but I would reject that. I have learned so much over the...
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion, it was Tony Hawk's. And the situation is, at the end of the round, they're all still very even. Tony's actually 1 point ahead of Paul, 1 point ahead of Justin, 1 point ahead of Chris, in that order. So, Paul, it's your turn to begin. And the subject is the wash. 60 seconds. Tell us something about the wash. Paul, starting now.
In my working-class childhood, I seem to remember that people did the wash one day a week, which was the Monday. Before washing machines had come in, we had a little sort of grinder thing, and it used to go through there and dry the clothes out. And you would see on that day between Sunday and Tuesday...
Justin, challenge.
Repetition of day?
Yes, I was trying to avoid Monday, and I said day.
So, Justin, well listened. You have a correct challenge. You have 47 seconds. Will you tell us something about the wash, starting now?
The Wash is one of the great geographical locations of this area. Another one on the way in is the many rivers that cross the flat plains of Lincolnshire. I got charged 50 pence to get in. How much is it going to cost to get out? That's what I'm worried about.
They love what you said, but I'm afraid Tony challenged you.
Yes, I just wanted to stop him incriminating himself further with the audience.
So what's your challenge with the rules
actually,
adjustment?
I thought he had repeated cost, but he
He also
didn't.
said, he said get twice.
What is your challenge?
Repetition of...
No.
Charge.
No, you can't have retrospective challenge.
Okay.
He repeated charge.
Yes, I
but
got
you
that.
didn't say that. So Justin has a point because he was interrupted. And there are 34 seconds for you, Justin, still on the wash, starting now.
I'll make sure that I have at least 50 more pence.
Chris challenge.
Repetition of 50.
50, yes.
You
And,
could have had anything there, really, couldn't you?
so the wash is with you, Chris, and there are 31 seconds starting now.
I remember when I was a child, every night about 5:30, our mum would...
Justin challenge.
Deviation.
Why?
5:30 is early evening, it's not the night.
It is when you're about 7, it's very late.
You didn't say you were so...
No, he said it when he was very young.
Very young.
And I will support him on that. So, an incorrect challenge, Chris. You still have the subject. The wash, 26 seconds, starting now.
The Wash is an area, indeed, of outstanding natural beauty in this county of Lincolnshire. The tide comes...
Paul challenge.
The audience seems to disagree with you. Only lead me to say that this is deviation on the part of Chris, because the local audience seems to pride as high as he does.
I think they should be the final judges. They don't think it's a natural beauty.
Well, I'm easily pleased. I've never seen anywhere as gorgeous as the Wash. I've been to Venice, I've been to Rome, I've been to Paris. None of it compares to the Wash.
When you went to any of those places, did you ever look out of a window?
I did, and I thought, well, this is all very well, but it ain't the Wash.
Chris, you have a bonus point for what you said just then, because the audience enjoyed it. But Paul has the subject, the wash, and there are 19 seconds starting now.
When I think of all the places on God's good earth, whether it...
Tony challenged.
God's good earth.
What's wrong with that?
God's good earth?
I think that was deviation from the English language.
No. It's God's good earth. We've all heard the
Said
expression.
God's good earth. He
No, I
deliberately
didn't do it
went
with a Norwegian accent. I'm sure I didn't go, God's good earth.
He was saying it so the Lincolnshire people could understand him better.
Well, Nicholas, I'd take your point away now.
I think you're pushing boundaries a bit there, Tony. So, an incorrect challenge, Paul. 16 seconds, the wash, starting now.
If you don't have a bath, you have to stand in front of the kitchen sink, get a face flannel, dip it into the water, a bit of soap, and then start moving the cloth across your body.
Chris, challenge.
Stop, I'm getting hot.
God, you really do have a lonely life, don't you?
Chris, they enjoyed your interruption. Bonus point to you. But Paul was interrupted, so he gets a point for that. 6 seconds, still with you, Paul, on the wash, starting now.
The good citizens of Lincoln stand up every...
Chris, challenge.
Well, repetition of good. We've had God's good
yes, that's
earth.
right.
Yes, God's good earth, yes. Right.
Note how he pronounced it the second time.
But I still understood him on both occasions. So 4 seconds with you, Chris, on the wash, starting now.
I remember on summer holidays...
So Chris Neill got that extra point for speaking as a whistlewind, and you'll be delighted and surprised to hear he has leapt forward with all the other points he's got, mostly for bonus, and he's now in the lead, 1 ahead of Paul Merton, and 3 ahead of Tony Hawkes and Justin Moorhouse. And Tony, we're with you to start, and the subject we'd like you to begin with is thinking out of the box. Can you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
I think the person who invented tripe was thinking out of the box. 3...
Chris, challenge.
Deviation, no one invented tripe.
Oh, what about God?
Well, were you proceed...
If you adhere to the Darwin theory, it couldn't have been God either, so...
Yeah.
Well, what do you... I mean, they did, didn't they? They decided to take
Invented
all
as
this
a
stuff.
dish, I think, yes.
Oh, I see what you mean, rather than as a part of an animal. Yeah.
And,
The Romans invented tripe.
and also you could say they invented the word to describe the entrails of the animal,
You
the
could if it was a
stomach lining.
particularly poor evening.
So you have... But anyway, Tony, it was an incorrect challenge. You have a point, and you have thinking out of the box, 55 seconds starting now.
Very often you are required to think out of the box on this programme. You get a subject and you cannot just run with the normality of its interesting meaning. You have to go in another direction, and I do this on regular occasions, really quite impressively, to be honest with you. I am quite magnificent on occasion.
Repetition of quite.
Quite, yes, you were quite this and quite that. And so... Chris, you were listening well, and you have...
It sounds like I've just made quite a good point at question time. Or something. There's not some quality to it.
40 seconds. Thinking out of the box with you, Chris, starting now.
Thinking out of the box. Blue sky thinking. All those silly phrases.
Tony, challenge.
I got done by a terrible, terrible mistake.
Yes.
Because thinking is on the
card,
card.
and you can use the words on the
but
card.
But he gets a bonus
I get a bonus point.
And I'm also very sorry.
You don't get a bonus.
That's the most important thing, obviously.
No, he doesn't get a bonus point. He gets a legitimate point for having an incorrect
Give me a
challenge.
bonus point as well.
No, you've had plenty of those already.
Oh.
35 seconds. Thinking out of the box, Chris, starting now.
As a child, towards Christmas, you'd look at the parcels underneath the Christmas tree. Oh, bugger.
Challenge, yes.
Chris, repetition.
Hesitation, repetition. 30 seconds. It's with you, Justin, now. Thinking out of the box, starting now.
I bought a shirt last week and the assistant said to me, how would you like it? And I said, I'm thinking out of the box, which is a silly joke, really, to get into this thing. However...
Paul, you challenge.
I was amazed they were laughing. I'm sorry, I had to stop.
Well, you retired on your laurels, having got such a big laugh. I give you a bonus point for that. But, Paul, you had a correct challenge. Hesitation, yes. 19 seconds. Thinking out of the box, starting now.
It's trying to think differently to other people. I was recently queuing for a CD in a big London store and saw that there was a massive queue upstairs in the rock department, so I suddenly thought to myself, if I visit the classical section, surely there'll be very few...
Justin, challenge.
I challenged incorrectly.
There's a word you say in those situations.
So an incorrect challenge. Paul, have another point for that. 6 seconds are available. Thinking out of the box, starting now.
The Scare Electric set arrived. I was so excited. I removed all the constituent ingredients. Plugs!
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went, has moved forward. He's now equal with Chris Neill in the lead, but they're only just ahead of Justin Moorhouse and Tony Hawks in that order. And Justin, we're back with you to begin, and the subject we'd like you to start with is Freshers' Week. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Freshers' Week, or as we like to call it in South Manchester, a mugger's 7 days of paradise, is one of the times that you will often see Volvos pulling up in leafy suburban streets. Young children, that's...
Chris, challenge.
Deviation is suburb in streets.
Suburban streets.
Well, if only you'd said that.
You've only had your chances in life for an education.
Justin, you've justified what you said. Right, you have got another point because an incorrect challenge. 50 seconds, Freshers' Week, starting now.
I like to see these parents dropping off their offspring and saying, good luck, bon chance, have a good time, be nice, keep talking, and then you might get to the end of the minute.
You're doing rather well, and then you sort of gave up a bit there.
I know.
If I'm being honest, I'm desperate for the toilet, and I just...
Are you
I
really
didn't know there was a
desperate?
prize. The Golden Bowl.
You obviously
start
didn't
trying
realise
now.
the show was going to last so long.
I'll stop drinking this water.
You know... Do you want to go now?
No, I'm okay, I'll be all right.
You'll be all right.
I hope so.
It was just a laugh. So, Tony, a correct challenge. 39 seconds. Tony, with you. Freshers' Week, starting now.
I had a short university career at Manchester and...
Justin, challenge.
I did it again, I'm sorry.
Why?
Because I said Manchester.
Yes, Justin, even, and I know it's only your second show, but you are allowed to repeat the words that other people have used. So another incorrect challenge, Tony. You have the Freshers' Week, and you have 33 seconds starting now.
Kevin Brown and I spent quite a lot of it playing table football. I was particularly good. I had a little striker painted on myself, red, and I wondered whether I could continually beat him, and I...
Justin, challenge.
Deviation. You had a little striker painted on yourself.
No. I'd painted it on myself. I'd taken the brush and I'd made my striker that much redder.
Right, he's established...
You're amazingly
What was your challenge? Within the rules of just a minute.
Deviation from the normal behaviour of a student in Freshers' Week.
There is no normal behaviour. That's the point of being in Freshers' Week.
No.
Well, painting a striker
I've
on
not
yourself.
only been at a Freshers' Week 2 years running, but also I have entertained at Freshers' Week, and I've seen the ridiculous and outrageous and unpredictable things that they do. So, Tony, it was an incorrect challenge. You have 24 seconds. You continue with Freshers' Week starting now.
And then I put a traffic cone on my head. How far I was prepared to push the boundaries of normality. It was extraordinary. The other students gathered round. Look at Tony, he's such a laugh. Let's...
Paul, challenge.
I find this very hard to believe.
Paul, we give you a bonus point because we enjoyed the interruption. But it's quite possible they did say that. They were all so high, of course they would.
High on the love of Radio 4.
Tony.
They don't listen to you and yours.
There are
It's a more
9...
aggressive version of that show called Up You and Yours.
So 9 seconds are still available for you, Tony. And another point, of course, Freshers' Week starting now.
And then I went back to my room and thought, hey, I'm wasting my time. I should be studying. And I took out my book and began to read. Napoleon.
Well, it's a very close contest because Tony Hawk's got a number of points in that round, including one for speaking as the whistle went, and he's moved forward. He's now equal with Paul Merton in the lead. They're only 1 point ahead of Chris Neill and a couple of points ahead of Justin Moorhouse, so it's an even contest. It's good because, you know, their contributions are all equal, aren't they?
But there is that toilet to play for, so...
Which toilet?
You know, the one that... You know, the one that we're vying for. The Golden Bowl.
The Golden Bowl, right, all right. And we're moving into the final round. Chris, it's your turn to begin, and the subject is prehistoric man. Can you tell us something about that in this game, starting now?
Prehistoric man was preceded by some dinosaurs.
Hesitation.
Yeah, I think it was going so slow I could call that hesitation.
Okay.
Right, 56 seconds. Our prehistoric man is with you, Justin, starting now.
My own recollection of prehistoric man, well, I obviously haven't got any memories of prehistoric man because I wasn't around at the time, but of cave dwellers and people with beards and loincloths and people who had big...
Oh, Tony challenge.
Yes, not, I didn't want to because I was going to learn so much about them, but...
You really wasn't.
Repetition of people.
Yes, you did say people twice. So, Tony, a correct challenge. 45 seconds are available. Prehistoric man starting now.
Sometimes we overlook the difficulties that a prehistoric man would have to go through just to make it through the day.
Justin challenge.
Repetition of through?
Yes. He did say true, I think, through.
I think I did.
Yes,
the difficulties they'd have
through
to
the
go
day.
through to make it through.
Yes, through, yes.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Well, listen, Justin, another point to you. 37 seconds are available. Tell us something about prehistoric man starting now.
The finest example of prehistoric man known to generations of people have obviously been...
Tony challenge.
He said people again.
Yeah, people again. Your favourite word?
Stop saying people.
I'm a people person.
Tony, back with you, another point, and 33 seconds. Prehistoric man starting now.
If you have ever tried to start a fire by rubbing two sticks together, you would be full of admiration for prehistoric man. It's so tricky, it's unbelievable. But I'll leave that aside and move on to something else. They didn't used to wear trousers. That was difficult for them. They'd go to discotheques and be laughed at sometimes.
Justin travels.
Deviation.
What?
They didn't go to discotheques.
No, they didn't have this.
They didn't.
Oh, no, I disagree. On some of the cave paintings, you can distinctly see a glittery ball.
It was just rock and roll, wasn't it? In those days?
That's well, technically, yes.
Your last remark alone deserves that you get the challenge, and you have another point, Justin. 13 seconds. Prehistoric man starting now.
If there was such a thing as a prehistoric discotheque, I would be first in the queue.
Paul challenge.
Deviation.
Why?
You didn't say people. Say people.
You get a bonus point for that because they enjoyed the interruption. But you get a point, Justin, because you were interrupted. And you have 9 seconds still. Keep going. The prehistoric man starting now.
And it wouldn't really matter if I came home to my prehistoric cave and my
Chris challenge.
Well, a repetition of cave. He said cave dweller before.
Cave dweller, yes.
I know it's slightly retrospective, but, you know.
He said it before. It's correct. So, Chris, you have 4 seconds. Tell us something about prehistoric man starting now.
Prehistoric man, and indeed prehistoric woman.
Well, Chris Neill was speaking as a whistle went. Justin Moorhouse got lots of points in that round. But you will be interested and delighted to hear it's very even.
Have I won?
Actually, I'm sorry, that is tautology. It's either even. You can't be very even. I apologise for my grammatical error.
Look at all those students, they're gutted.
I know. They're on tenterhooks to know. But it's Tony Hawks, Justin Moorhouse and Chris Neill are all equal in second place. And only 2 points ahead is Paul Merton. So once again we say, Paul, yes, you are the winner this week. As far as I'm concerned, they're all winners for the amazing contribution they make to the show. And so
Paul,
don't you mean...
Sorry, Paul, would you mind if Justin had first go with the prize?
Well, I was hoping to be draining it full of champagne later on. Perhaps we ought to do that first.
So this is what you were referring to before, was it?
Yes.
Tony had to get it out of his system.
Sorry.
I think you should all restrain yourself and keep it within your systems. And thank you to these 4 fine players of the game who all, to my mind, in wit and humour and contribution, finished up equal. But they are Paul Merton and Chris Neill and Justin Moorhouse and Tony Hawks. Congratulations to all 4 of them. who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle with such aplomb. We're indebted to our producer, Claire Jones. We're deeply indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're genuinely indebted to this lovely audience at the Performing Arts Centre here at the University of Lincoln, who have enjoyed themselves but helped us to enjoy ourselves. From our lovely Lincolnshire audience, from the panel and from me, Nicholas Parsons, thank you for tuning in. Be with us the next time we play Just a Minute!